We're testing to see if audio's working. Let us know in the chat if you can actually hear us this time.
I
We
believe
can
it
hear you
is.
now, he says. Okay. Well, we
Yay!
can start over on that. So anyway, we're here to cover the Classic Championship Series Season 1 of Summer match between Reign of Kings and Xflow Pink. This is a lower bracket match. Both of these teams are up for elimination should they lose this series. Xflow Pink on the blue side for game number 1, as Reign of Kings have opted for the red side. Orion, you can go ahead and repeat all of that stuff you said while we were muted.
Yeah, so I mean, gonna have to shoot the shot back towards Flay. The second my team gets eliminated from playoff contention, he comes crawling back to me once again to cast playoff platinum playoffs once again from last split. But yeah, so both these teams obviously coming from the same group, like you mentioned while we were previously muted. But Reign of Kings regular season 5-2, pretty solid start, but they ended up dropping obviously to Goldfish Gaming in the upper bracket playoffs last week. And then for Xflow Pink, they were obviously starting in the lower bracket, but they were able to beat out their opponents, Titan Gaming Hyperion, in a 3-1 matchup as well. So both these teams obviously do have best of five experience, but in terms of a Reign of Kings losing their first matchup, it could bring them down like a little bit momentum wise. But I do think that obviously these teams are pretty even in the standings, but Reign of Kings did take this matchup 2-0 in the regular season.
Yeah, and I imagine so. I'm not familiar as much with how Reign of Kings play in CCS because they have a slightly different roster from different tournaments that I've watched them in. But I casted the Xflow series last week. Xflow, Polish Pharaoh really likes to play more towards bot and mid and away from top, which I think is a bit of a shame. I think Yone has put in some really strong performances in the top lane, solo killed in a unfavorable lane matchup. We are into draft for game number 1. Xflow on blue side, Reign of Kings on the red side, as Reign of Kings did get side selection. First bands coming out, Mordekaiser and Yumi respectively. Are these any bit of a surprise to you, or as you expected?
Yeah, so I think obviously the Mordekaiser ban is like a bit more of a target ban in my opinion. It's not necessarily a huge priority pick, and even the Akali as well. But I do think that Trundle and Yumi are two very powerful champions in the current meta. When Thursday comes around, Trundle may not be as powerful for those that are unaware of the patch coming through. But so far, a lot of these bans, in my opinion, like maybe besides the Yumi and the Trundle, they're just very much targeted towards bans. And when you do target bans like this, you leave a champion like Seraphine open and available for the B1. So curious to see what the answer is going to be for Raid of Kings because Seraphine is still a very powerful champion on the patch.
Yeah, Seraphine, we saw it be first picked in Xflow's last series. Not really much of a surprise to see a lot of priority put on it again. I think I agree with you. The Mordekaiser is probably a target ban on the side of Reign of Kings. It's something that Hastega notoriously likes to play in the jungle. And then Akali, Lilia, these are very similar bans to what we saw Titan Gaming Hyperion ban out against Xflow. So uh, just generally good bans for this particular team. The first round, Sivir picked up for Reign of Kings.
Yeah, Sivir is still once again a very powerful pick, and when you line it up with an enchanter like Karma, you enabled this champion to really start taking over some fights. Typically, the better pairing, in my opinion, is Lulu, but this Karma pick could be maybe to match the Seraphine in lane if it were to go into the bottom side, or you just kind of have like the ability to potentially poke out the lane opponent. That's something that Lulu can't quite do, but Lulu definitely operates team fights a little bit better than Karma typically does. So but so far, a lot of very powerful picks because of the bans have come through already. Seraphine Wukong, a very powerful combination as a duo because you can use Wukong as an extension for the Seraphine Encore to really take over fights. And yeah, you have a Sivir that has her spell shield, but you can't really spell shield an Ornn, Wukong, and Seraphine when they're all hitting on top of you. And their base damage, while it may not be that great, but the three of them combined can certainly kill an 80 carry. So Xflow has definitely drafted a composition for himself that's just very easy, very simplistic style to pull off. And for a game one of a best of five, I really appreciate the style.
Yeah, Wukong. Not to mention something that Polish Pharaoh I think he played all 4 games of last week's series, and then Ornn, of course, by far Yaone's most played champion. They're gonna pick up the Camille as the answer on the side of Reign of Kings, and yeah, very interesting that they've picked up jungle on the side of Xflow, whereas Reign of King, and they're not really that shy to try and hide their top lane pick either. The Ornn they're just very comfortable on.
Yeah, so I think the Camille pick answering is pretty interesting, mostly because we have seen some Camille's obviously take over the Ornn matchup, and you can really start outscaling it. But it also it really depends on like how ROK or Reign of Kings is actually able to play around the Camille, right? Because if the Camille is not ever actually able to get ahead of the Ornn or like really start punishing him in the side lane, obviously Ornn will obviously bring that much more value to late game team fights and just the overall just the ability to like tank up extra damage that Camille just doesn't have in her kit, right? So it's gonna be really up to Red of Kings' top laner to really like take over the game on a side lane to really actually prove this pick is worthy, or else it's like obviously they probably had some type of game plan, right? It's the reason why they picked the Camille on 3. They felt like this Orm pick was coming in, and they'd rather save their jungle and their mid pick for a little bit later on instead.
I mean, if you see a good matchup for your top laner and it's something he's comfortable with, you don't need to hide it. You can you can like kind of use your pick order to hide other picks like your jungle or your mid, or give them a little bit more knowledge of what they're playing into.
Mhm.
And yeah, I guess Slappy feels good about the Camille into Ornn matchup. Do you anticipate that the Camille will mostly be splitting, or do you think that there's an opportunity for Camille to kind of join and we'll see maybe some big 5v5s, even though that's sort of what Xflow kind of wants right now?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Xflow's composition really wants to group together as five, and even though we haven't seen their mid or their AD carry or potentially their like how wherever Seraphine goes, like obviously these three champions want to group together. And Camille, while she can group together, ideally I would like to see Slappy take Ornn into a side lane and make sure he is not allowed to join for these fights. Or if the Ornn does join for the fight, Reign of Kings able to get so much more across the map with the Camille on the side lane, right? Because in terms of overall value, like I was saying, Ornn is going to bring that much more compared to just a Camille diving in the back line. Yeah, you have the Volibear to kind of help you out a little bit here, but it's probably not going to be enough to actually really deal or really to cut through the Seraphine healing as his team fights do go on. So even with the three champions locked in for Xflow, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Xflow locks like Azir or like just like some like really crazy backline like just DPS here, and just I'll like basically say, okay, okay, are you gonna actually come into me and fight me? It's like same thing, Senna. It's like you're not gonna chew through them as a backline unit. You're gonna have to spread them out. You don't want to team fight against Xflow's composition, or else you are just honestly asking to lose.
Yeah, and Senna Seraphine locked in, that's a really powerful bot lane. Of course, the Seraphine could potentially go mid lane, where we have yet to see what their fifth pick will be. We didn't really talk much about the second round of bans. Poppy Nocturne going to be pinching away Reign of Kings' jungle pool, and then they're going to lock in the Swain as well.
Yeah. See, like once again, another like this is the definition of just a death ball composition, right? You have Seraphine, Swain, Senna, like like even like Wukong champions that just want to be really, really close. And Seraphine's W obviously is multiplicative to where the more champions she ticks with that W, the more overall healing it's going to end up being. So and really, so far, it's like obviously, ROK is trying to match a little bit here with the Sivir and the Victor. It's just Xflow has such a better front line drafted for them and just that much more healing around them that, ROK is going to have to do a really good job of honestly getting ahead early, or the Camille is going to have to do a really good job of actually getting ahead on the split push and actually drawing members to her, or else Xflow is going to have a much easier time fighting for these objectives.
Yeah, and the Victor lock-in gives Reign of Kings a little bit of scaling power. Sivir, of course, scales really well as the game goes on. You're just bouncing, critting, boomerangs throughout the entire team if you can do that. Uh, it really helps a lot for Sivir to have enchanters like Karma,
Mhm.
and allowing her to get that spacing and continue her uptime with her auto attacks. I'm really interested to see how this one goes out because I think both of these teams have a lot of power come late game. If you're just looking at these team compositions, Orion, which team would you rather be playing?
Oh, absolutely, Xflow. Like Xflow's composition right now is like it's probably considered like one of the best compositions to really draft for yourself because it's really easy to play. You have somewhat early game pressure with the Wukong, and you still have enough base damages early to where like you can still like somewhat make plays. Like you're not just gonna get perma pushed in. Like Ornn can handle a Camille early. Obviously, when the Camille gets Divine Sunder, the matchup like completely went like 180s into Camille's favor. But Orin can handle Camille early. Swain can obviously deal with Victor, like the laning pressure. Seraphine Senna is not going to ever die to Senna Karma. And Volibear, as a jungler, has to get things accomplished done early, or else he is just going to eventually just get outscaled. He's going to become a CC bot. And unfortunately for our ROK's composition, it's not really going to be enough for them. So they're going to have to really get ahead early. In my opinion, they're going to have to kind of put their eggs in the Camille basket with the early pressure from the Volibear, maybe try to punish the Orange like laning phase a little bit. And then if you're actually able to like get the Camille active on the side lane and just really start pressuring them to make things happen for Xflow, maybe they will make a mistake. Maybe they won't group together as five. But if Xflow gets those early objectives going early, like if they get early dragons, early Rift Heralds, all of a sudden like this game just becomes very easy to play for Xflow.
Yeah, I think so the avenue for Reign of Kings to come out ahead in this game, you have to there's some ways, right? It obviously a lot more difficult to execute on than what Xflow has drafted for themselves, but you have some options, right? Sivir Victor, two of the better wave clearing champions in their particular position. You can potentially push really hard and give Camille the space to split, which is really the only way they win against Xflow, because Xflow have this death ball team comp that you've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They can also, of course, Volibear, he's fallen off as far as how powerful he is in the early game just due to nerfs to his numbers, but he is still a very early game focused jungler, can potentially just get a snowball rolling if he gets the Camille ahead, if he gets any of these lanes ahead, frankly. So maybe we're looking for something that's just pure snowballing power there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Volibear, like he has to get something done. Like if this game, like if game one just completely like stalls out and they're only gonna basically do like just scale, like Xflow's composition is just way better than ROK's. But if Volibear is active on the map, he makes things happen. Like he gets his lanes ahead. Then obviously Reign of Kings can still win this game. But if this game scales out, this game kind of like obviously if we're just playing for 5v5 objectives, then I much like Xflow's composition just a little bit better.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. We are going into the spectator delay. We'll take this opportunity to remind you of the Classic Championship Series partner ProComps. ProComps is a first of its kind drafting tool aimed for competitive and solo queue play. ProComps allows the user live feedback and analysis on drafting, giving them recommendations on picks, notes on matchups, and analysis of the enemy team's win cons. These features allow the user to gain an edge on their opponent and improve their drafting skills. Use code CCS for 50% off the first 3 months of ProComps. And with that, we're going to take a short break while we wait out the spectator delay. Don't go anywhere because we're getting into game one very shortly. Thanks for watching, everybody. Internet, hello and welcome back. We're here with game number 1 between Xflow Pink and Reign of Kings. Just a classic 5-point across the board.
Yep, nothing's gonna happen really so far. I mean, obviously, we talked about pretty extensively on how Xflow, they don't really have to do a whole lot, right, in terms of their composition, right? Like obviously, Wukong's job in the early stages of the game is mostly just to kind of counter the Volibear's actions, really, because his lanes will naturally kind of do fine by themselves. Nothing's really gonna crazy happen there, as we do see a little bit cheeky, Hasteka trying to get like a little bit of I'm not really sure. I guess like just kind of showing himself in that river there, which is most likely gonna kind of give away his pathing here a little bit, because obviously most people, like I said, you're gonna want to play for this Camille. You're gonna want to have the Camille get as ahead of the Orange. So playing from pathing from bot to top does make sense, but Wukong will obviously kind of know that path as well and be able to prepare for it as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that Hastega really wants to put a lot of focus in that top lane. Camille is kind of the focal point of their comp as it is right now. So you need to get that top lane ahead to give the power to split push, and then maybe able to spread that power over to the rest of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the Camille's gonna have that kind of early pressure on the Ornn with the W and the ability to kind of have like that passive shield going. But Ornn is like he is kind of like this beefy, tanky top laner, right? He just doesn't really take any damage early on in the game, so he can kind of withstand a lot of this Camille's kind of like early pressure that she's gonna want to deal onto him. And it's going to be really up to this Volibear to really kind of get the action rolling in this game. And, I think both junglers have kind of identified that a little bit. We already see a question mark ping onto the enemy jungler's red. So they know that this Volibear is going to be on the top half of the map. It's really going to be up to the Yone to really just kind of withstand or withhold the ability to just like not take as much pressure on the map and just be able to go a little bit behind in the CS department, and then just kind of be able to soak up the pressure. But Wukong is actually skipping his blue buff, looking for an early gank onto the Camille.
Yeah, Hastega's starting up his red here, so they don't quite know this is happening. Polish Pharaoh making his presence known. The hook shot off of the Ornn tower, so able to get himself out of there. Not really any problem there. Doesn't have flash to speak of, so that summoner spell is not available to him. Had that worked out.
Yeah, a little preemptuous there by Polish Pharaoh there in the jungle, because Ornn was not quite level 3 yet. He did not have access to the Searing Slam there from his E. So unfortunately for him, did not quite work out. But ultimately, he kind of knew where the jungler was. Where he's looking at, okay, Volibear is looking at mid lane as well.
Looking at mid lane, it doesn't look like they're getting anything here as Yone. Oh no, hold on a second. Trice Cross actually flashing out from the gravity field. Never move will not quite connect onto Hastega. So successfully getting that summoner spell out. It does only matter if he's able to make that flash count, result in a kill later on.
Yeah, but that's still a really big summoner spell to blow, though, because obviously, with you not blowing your own flash as the Volibear, basically makes this gank in the mid lane really, really easy with the point and click CC into the gravity wheel from the Victor. So I'm definitely really looking to see if this play is going to be able to happen once again, as Hastega, he's just once again back on the map. He has dodged this ward here, I believe.
Yeah,
so
he also dodged the Scryer's Bloom. There's the root coming out. Prey is going to get rooted up. A little bit of damage coming out. The Monster Q is going to be spell shielded away by, or the damage is going to be spell shielded away by with the exhaust going down, as Hastega has found Polish Pharaoh trying to get around the side, actually juking him out. He thinks that he W'd over the wall there. No more summoners burned other than that exhaust in the bottom lane. Hastega cutting off Polish Pharaoh as he tries to come down to assist his bottom lane. Now there's a potential dive coming in onto the lone Senna. As Prey has recalled, they're just trying to shove the wave in so that they can get this one down. Here's the teleport coming out from Prey. Flash stun comes out. First blood goes over to Hastega on the Volibear, and Prey does not have the damage necessary to finish this one up. Wit taking a couple tower shots more than he anticipated, but it will be 1-0 on the board to Reign of Kings.
Yeah, really well done there by the Reign of Kings, punishing the early scaling lane there. But I'm surprised the TP came in so late there from Prey. He was just sitting in base, even though the Volibear showed in his lane. They knew they were going to die to Senna, but unfortunately for them, they did not quite react in time with the TP to come in, and it is going to be the result of First Blood going over the way to Hastega, which is going to enable him to, once again, just continuously look for ganks over and over again. He cannot slow down this game if he wants his team to be successful.
Yeah, Polish Pharaoh unfortunately not able to make his first gank work out, and because he did go, or he did opt to skip his blue buff, he is now a little bit behind Hestega just because his pathing is a little bit less efficient and he didn't get anything out of that top lane attempt. It should be okay for Xflow Pink. They're not in a dangerous position yet, but Reign of Kings are able to keep their prospects alive. They need to keep this momentum moving forward.
Yeah, they're definitely going to look to that for sure. Obviously, Volibear has not quite hit the base platform just yet, and Wukong obviously has. So Volibear will have to eventually get a base platform, which will allow Wukong to kind of catch back up with a couple camps to pick up. And also, Dragon is also up on the map. And we talked about, how the fact that, if Xflow is able to pick up some of these early objectives, that will kind of help their kind of early agency, right? Because, when you get those dragons, you get this that all of a sudden those things can become basically ticking time bombs essentially. It's where you kind of have to accelerate the pace of the game in order to really match the opponents when you kind of go for those types of plays. But it does look like, Volibear, obviously with the fact that he is on the top side of the map, if they know that he's here, the dragon play could be potential, but bot lane is doing a really good job here from Reign of Kings, just constantly pushing in the Seraphine and Senna, not letting them have any priority in this lane.
Yeah, kind of the name of the game with Sivir. Like you pick that champion bottom so that you can just shove in without really any regard for what the enemy bottom lane wants to do.
Yeah, and they're honestly just doing a really good job of it, right? Because it's kind of the reason why I like the Karma pick a little bit, because Karma is a much better laner than other enchanters are. You have so much raw damage from the Mantra Q to come through, and it allows you to just be able to just absorb some early pressure that typically Seraphine and Senna can actually have on you, because not only do they do a lot of damage, but they have a lot of built-in innate sustain. And so far, Reign of Kings, obviously they do have the 1k gold at 7 minutes, but you kind of have to question, the Swain Flash is almost back up. Yes, Volibear did use it in the bottom lane, so he won't be able to use it in the mid lane to pick up Trice, but Trice also has access to the Ghost as well, so I think he's going to be able to be okay until his Flash cooldown does come back up. So could have potentially missed that window there to maybe look for a play. Instead, Volibear has gone kind of back to farming a lot, and something I don't necessarily agree with a lot, just because the fact that he needs to continuously look to make plays, or else they're just naturally going to get outscaled.
Yeah, so we have Hestega kind of in the bottom side again. He's going to get spotted out on a control ward right now. They're looking for the dive here. He's going to disable the tower immediately, flash away from Prey to avoid getting stunned up. There's the charm coming up on the Encore. Prey going very low. He's rooted, and he's taken down. Wit was tanking tower for quite a bit of that, but he'll be okay. They've got the rotation from Tricecost on the way down here as he blast cones over the wall, but he's not in a position to really make anything happen, and he is being followed by Renji, who is going to actually cut him off on his way back in. Gravity Field is going to go down. The Chaos Arm is ticking away onto him as well. Tricecost does pop the Demonic Ascension. He's going to land the Never Move as well. He's not a lot of mana available for Renji, but here comes Hestega to try and finish this one off for him. He's going to flash away, trying to get a finish off Renji if he can't get the shield. He does get it! The solo, as Hestega's not able to finish him off. He's still got the Demonic Ascension running. He's got full soul charges. Here comes Wit and Bad Cut to try and make it a 3v1. Tricecost running into the Jugular, but he snipes down Hestega. Wit's going to try and put down some damage, and finally Tricecost will finally go out of mana, but he's going very, very low. Hammy is here now, but I don't think he'll be able to get too much more. A really impressive play from the mid laner for Xflow Pink.
Yeah, it starts off with a bottom dive there from Hestega, doing a really good job of turning off the tower, doing it, basically able to pick off the kill there onto the Seraphine. But unfortunately for them, it wasn't quite able to really, only able to amount to the one kill. And with the Swain roaming down, it was initially, it looks really good for Renji to just sit in the bush to try and stop Tricecross from actually getting back to mid. But Victor does not have enough damage just yet in his kit to really burn through all that extra healing. And with the Ghost being active, Hestega not having Q, not having his ultimate, and not having Flash, unfortunately does result in his death as well. So a bit of a 2 for 2 overall. So definitely could have been a lot worse there for Xflow, but ends up being a pretty solid play for them at the end of the day.
Yeah, 2 for 2 is it doesn't sound that bad, but you remember that started out as a 1 for 0 with Reign of Kings on a successful dive. I guess Renji just not really respecting the power of that Swain early on, or rather, not respecting how weak Victor is without a little bit more scaling on him.
Yeah, and then it's one of the things, right? Because like like we talked about how like these lanes, they're kind of just okay. Like they kind of want to scale. Like everyone kind of wants to scale, except for the Camille and the Volibear, I would say, in this game, and maybe the junglers as well. But really, the junglers as the game goes on are just gonna want to create space in these team fights, and that's all really Swain, Seraphine, Synods. That's all they need. They just need as much space as possible. Slappy's taking a little bit of damage here. Orin does have access to the ultimate, but he is pretty low on mana, so he should be fine in this top lane. Most likely just going to get a reset here. But yeah, so far, game is still only a 1.5 thousand gold lead. And I think if you're Xflow, you're still thinking of this game like, okay, we're in a pretty good position with what we've currently put ourselves in.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Hastega going for the Sunder. I've seen Sunder, and I've also seen Chemtank as mythic items of choice for Volibear. Do you agree with this decision in this particular game for the Volibear to go Divine Sunder?
So I think it's probably the thing like where like he feels like maybe they need a little bit more damage to get through the Sin and the Seraphine's like healing per se, but
Yeah, hold on a second. Call the Fort Gun has been issued as Yane gonna nicely juked away by the hookshot from Slappy. That was potentially a solo kill onto Yane if that first bit and the second bit of the Call of the Fort God landed. Now here we go, has taken flash the minion! He doesn't even disable the tower, the encore coming out, as well as the ultimate out from Polish Pharaoh. He's knocking them all up. Ray survives as well. Now Bad Cop is in a bad spot. He's running for his life. His wit's already gone down. Bad Cop gonna go fall as well. 3 for 0 in favor of Xflow.
Yeah, things just went from bad to worse here for Reign of Kings. You see the attempt. Hastega, he knows that he has to make things happen every single time. But the second Hammy flashes away, turns himself invisible with his E, he is able to escape hands-free there. As Slappy, he needs to be a little bit careful here. He is getting dangerously low here. So but it does look like the dragon is also going to go the way here of Xflow after that fight as well.
Yeah, Slappy in a pretty precarious situation, but Yane low on mana. I think Slappy is kind of pressing his luck here a little bit, but he'll be probably okay. They do have Triscross on the rotation up as the dragon is taken away by them. Slappy is going to go in very low as Triscross is just ready to walk in there. Gets autoed for the kill by Yane. And this is just really looking very bad for Reign of Kings right now.
Yeah, it's not looking too great for them because obviously the gold lead is being back close to even here. So, but obviously with the Swain moving up towards the top lane play, Victor is able to push up this mid lane. He might be able to get a tower play or so in mid lane. It's kind of hard to tell without the directed camera moving that way. But Volibear is on the bottom half of the map. They did know. Actually, wait, Wukong died in the top lane. Where did he die at?
Oh,
where did Wukong die at? I missed that one.
That is a good question.
Ah, he died.
Oh,
he died at
dragon. Okay.
Oh,
well, they got the dragon and then they lost their jungler for it, I suppose.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a 1-for-1 ultimately, and as you can see, like the bottom lane is still doing a really good job of just controlling that lane with the Sivir and the Karma. 4 plates. Oh, not quite. 3 plates and like 99% of a 4th plate here, picked up here by the bot lane of Wit and Bad Cop. So they're certainly doing their job, but like we've talked about here, as long as this game is even, or Xflow has a lead, it's going to be harder and harder for Reign of Kings to ever actually chew through the HP bars of Xflow here.
Yeah, Slappy continuing to play aggressively in on Diana. He does have that Divine Sunder that you talked about, was kind of the turning point in this matchup here. Slappy playing aggressively, having hit that power spike, but that death does really put a damper on things in this matchup.
Yeah, and also, like, that kill obviously allows Orin to hit those items just a little bit sooner. And Wukong is back up here. He knows Slappy does not have flash.
Yeah, here we go. The Call of the Forge God. Nice interrupt on the Cyclone to break away the hook shot, and the teleport coming in from Renji. He's going to drop as much as he can, but he doesn't quite have the damage, as well as the ultimate coming in from Senna. Polish Pharaoh ready to go back in. Renji is just running for his life. He's slowed up. Hastega trying to come around. Polish Pharaoh goes very low. Yane flashes. Almost gets the solo kill onto Renji. Triscross is now here as well. Hastega trying to get in there, but he isn't able to finish anyone off. The only member to die is Slappy so far. Triscross gonna get stunned up. Renji too low, cannot move much forward. Triscross ready to come from behind the gravity field, gonna dissuade that one as Bad Cop gonna get rooted up in the bottom lane, and there's not gonna be much going on in the bottom. Hastega now potentially dive possibility. Yane gonna come in here. Here's the hook shot off of a teleport from Slappy. Here's the ultimate doing down from Hastega. The Stormbreaker comes in. Slappy finishes off Triscross as Yane now in trouble. He's gonna get slowed up and stunned and taken down. It's 2 back in favor of Reign of Kings.
Yeah, honestly, a really good initial play there by Polish to cancel out the hookshot there, as we do see a little bit of a trade here, but Seraphine Senna are just a little bit too tanky for them to actually able to kill them early right now. But yeah, Polish cancels the Camille hookshot there to actually allow the Ornn ultimate to come through and land the Call of the Forge God to actually pick up the kill. But they stayed a little bit too long on the top side. They did not respect Slappy actually able to TP in. So it actually ends up being a better play for Reign of Kings, and they now have the gold lead once again back in their pockets. But it's still only just a 1,000 gold lead here at the 15-minute marker.
Yeah, Yane teleporting back into his lane to pick up some of that CS. And looks like we're going to be going back to a little bit of downtime, a little bit more farming as things calm down a little bit.
Yeah, and we got obviously Dragon spawning up at about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So, if you are Xflow, that is something that you'd like to pick up once again because, it kind of helps their death ball composition. Like, you want to be grouping, you want to be kind of playing around for these objectives. And it does look like they're already prepping for it a little bit here because they want to start up this Rift Herald. They want to use the Rift Herald's pressure to allow them to actually enter onto the map and be able to, like, basically, anytime the Rift Herald is spawned, you usually have to respond to it or else the Rift Herald will start taking a lot of your towers basically for free. So you can use the Rift Herald as a way of actually to be able to gain access into the river. So I do like this pickup here by the Polish here, but he is going to be seen on a ward here. So
yeah, Slappy actually ready to go aggressive in onto him. He hook shots forward. I think he's kind of bluffing that he had teammates, as actually all 4 of his teammates here ready to dive the bottom lane as the tower goes down. You've got Hastega zooming on in there, looking for a stun, flash away from Prey to avoid getting stunned up, and that will be a little bit of pressure gained by Reign of Kings on the bottom side as the Dragon spawning up in about 25 seconds.
It is spawning in 25 seconds, so they will be able to have enough time to kind of clear some vision that's already been placed here by the Reign of Kings here. Because we do see a control ward over the pit, we do see a ward as well, but the mid lane has already been pushed out here by Swain, and you see Victor obviously going to answer. Trice is in a bit of an interesting position. Definitely could have got jumped on there if he was not careful because he does not have flash. So I'm not sure if they know he has flash or not, but I feel like if I was the volleyball there, I definitely would have been a little bit more aggressive. But they could have, they might not have known if the rest of the teams were behind him or not, but they might have easily looked for that play because he was a little bit alone there. So definitely needs to be a little bit more careful of the fact that he does not have flash. But both teams are grouping around the area, and we talked about the 5v5 death ball composition. This is where
Slappy goes in, tries cross pops the demonic ascension. Slappy's going in there, the Stormbreaker comes down, there's a big encore and Call the Fork knocks up free. Slappy's the first member to fall, Hastega is soon to follow, and now Polish Pharaoh in the backside is just spinning all over the backline of Reign of Kings. Reggie rooted up, he'll go down as well. It's a 3-for-0 so far in favor of Xflow. Pink is Bad Cop is running out with his tail between his legs.
Yep, and there it is, right? The Xflow composition playing exactly what they want to do here. They want to group up, they want to play for these major objectives, and we see the initial attempt from the Camille, from the Volleyball to dive on the backline, but they just don't have the damage to chew through the Seraphine ultimate, the Senna ultimate, and even the Swain ultimate all coming through. The Encore and the Dawning Shadow able to layer the damage to come through, and all of the healing on top of it, it is just not enough at this stage of the game. And then the Victor and the Sivir were never able to enter the fight because of the long-range ultimates from the Call of the Forge God, and also the Cyclone coming in the back half of the fight from Polish Pharaoh, just buying space for the carries to actually be able to be successful in these fights. And now that's 2 dragons already picked up here for Xflow, and they are transitioning into the mid-game where their composition is really going to start thriving.
Yeah, halfway to Dragon Soul already, and in a position where they just can't lose a team fight. They have a better team fighting composition, and now they're about 700 gold ahead. That sounds a little bit small, but they really firmly have momentum in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, they're in a really good position because of the fact that, they have like this kind of death ball composition, and dragons are a very, very important part of League of Legends currently. So, obviously, you can't just let the team ultimately pick up dragon after dragon because it is a mountain soul on top of it. Probably one of the most efficient drags/dragon soul to actually have on your team, especially when you have a composition like this where it's looking like, Reign of Kings is already having a hard time actually picking up kills in these fights. You add a mountain soul on top of it, it becomes almost nearly impossible for the Sivir or the Victor to even start chewing through these guys.
Yeah, the way you beat champions like Seraphine and Senna that are going to be spamming shields is that you you burst them really quickly before they can get those shields up. The Mountain Soul is going to make that even harder, and Yana is going to issue the call of the Forge God here. Slappy will get caught after the hook shot. Flash Searing Charge! Nice dodge away from Slappy, but it doesn't matter. There's just too much damage and power available for Polish Pharaoh and Yone. He's not getting out of this one.
Yep, and there's the issue with not having Flash, right? Like, I understand having the Ignite because you want to really take advantage of this lane. But anytime you don't have Flash and Ornn has the ultimate, you are basically like just kind of setting yourself up to get nailed by the call of the Forge God there. And the rest is just really easy to play out from there because you have basically the point and click E there onto the wall there after the Flash. Cyclone to follow. Yeah, it was pretty well played there by Slappy to use the Hextech ultimatum to dodge out on the initial damage there from the E. But still, it ultimately does not matter when you have the Flash. And oh, nice little damage here by Victor, potentially chasing him away. He does have Flash if he wanted to really go for it.
Adcop actually taking a lot of damage here. He's actually going to get rooted up as well. The Encore's going to be thrown down, but it doesn't connect onto Bad Cop. A little bit too much there. Greed there, trying to catch both of them. Tries cross. His Demonic Ascension has worn out, but he does get another move on the Renjis. Now he's running back away. He's going to die to Leandries. The teleport from Slappy to cut him off, but it ultimately just ends up being kill gold over to Renji.
Yeah, ultimately, like, it was a interesting decision there to go to for Swain to really be that far up with not any teammates around him, and the TP does come in to punish him, but mid lane tower is
Stormbreaker over the side as Hestega's looking for it, as Slappy comes in with a hook shot, doesn't quite connect onto anybody, and now Slappy's going for the tower. It will be the shutdown goes over as Prey goes down to Wit on the backside. A teleport coming in from Yane, but a little bit too late to prevent the death of his AD carry.
Yeah, top tower obviously does end up falling there, but Encore was crucially missed there by Prey, like we saw on the screen. If he has that ability open, that situation looks a lot different there for Xflow, but it does look like they're potentially threatening the Baron.
They're getting caught here as Yane throws in the call of the Forge God. Wit gonna get slowed up by the Vision of Empire as Hestega coming around the side trying to find something, but he'll get rooted up by Hammy. They're gonna back away as the gravity field is dropped down. They didn't actually start the Baron, we're just trying to bait it out, but they did get caught on the way out. Nobody died, thankfully, for the side of Reign of Kings.
Yeah, nobody dies, but look how late they are responding to the mid lane push here. It is going to result in mid lane tower falling here on the side of Xflow here. So, and this is going to open up the map a lot here for Xflow, especially when they're going to start playing pretty heavily towards the bottom side of the map in the next 40 seconds here. A lot of resets are going to come through here for Xflow. They're going to spend their gold. They're going to want to get back on the map to really start making some plays here. But nice stop there by Bad Cop to make sure they can't actually get back on the map because 25 seconds, the Mountain Dragon is spawning. And if you are Reign of Kings, you're going to want to deny this dragon as much as you possibly can. But once again, you're grouping into a death ball composition. This is what Xflow wants to do. This is where they want to be. And if you're Reign of Kings, this is not at all what you want to be. You want to have Camille looking for a flank. You want to be creative with your engages. And so far, they have not been able to do it just yet.
Yeah, and this is the other thing, that 2 controllers from Reign of Kings invested in the top side, which means they don't have quite as much to invest in the bottom side, as Prey is going to be the target. Now, it's going to be a flash stun, but the flash from Prey to get under tower a little bit too far, as the Never Move is going to catch on a Bad Cup. Bad Cup dies immediately, and Polish Pharaoh on the backside is cycloning through them all.
There it is.
Encore's going to be stopwatched by Renji, but they caught everybody else. There's so much damage coming out, and Reign of Kings just get wiped.
Yep, and that's going to be the transition over to the Baron as well. Actually, maybe a bit two-man here, potentially. Just like Swain is going towards the bottom side of the map. Maybe he's thinking he wants to stop the Camille pressure, or he wants to stop the Camille from actually just doing the dragon here, potentially. But yeah, the initial fight comes through here for Xflow. I like the attempt onto Prey, but he has Flash once again, and then on the back half of it, Never Move does come through, but Slappy is looking.
He's gonna go for the solo in onto Trice-Cross as the rest of the team finishes off the Baron, but I don't know if he wins that, and even if he did, it would take a long time. The rest of the team has plenty of time to finish that Baron and run down to help their mid laner. They can't even pick up the Mountain Drake thanks to the efforts of Trice-Cross. Reign of Kings just looking really lost in this game, number 1.
Yeah, it's gonna be potentially a round 2 coming in here for this fight over the drag. Everyone's respawned, but crucially, a lot of ultimates are on cooldown here. Seraphine's is back up, and Swains and Wukongs are coming in rather soon. So it will be dependent upon if these abilities are able to cool down. Hextech Ultimatum is open and available, but the 4 other ultimates here for Reign of Kings are also on cooldown. So it's gonna be a bit of a teeter-totter here for a little bit until these abilities come available. We see the Ornn cooldown coming very, very soon. That's the last one they're really waiting on. Slappy is a bit out of position, but
Yeah,
he
looking
wants
for
to
the
try to look for a
flank.
flank.
Maybe he gets caught on the flank here, but they're gonna just cut off this corridor, and Reign of Kings, they really cannot approach, so I think they should just give this dragon. There's really no chance of this one happening. There's a real chance, though, that you just die as Bad Cup takes a little bit of a greedy path forward here. Slappy looking to go in, but it's too late as the dragon has already fallen in favor of Xflow. They're at Soul Point.
Yeah, Soul Point coming through here for Xflow, crucially because this once again that is going to allow them to just group up for an objective. And really, we talked about this Camille pick being very crucial in the draft, being able to get things accomplished in a side lane, just but ultimately pull Ornn off to the side so someone has to answer him, and then just get really far ahead that way. But unfortunately for Slappy here, it is just not able to accomplish that pick. And you really got to think, right? Because obviously, the front line for Xflow is just so much better. And really, Camille just does not have enough damage to really chunk through the backline healing of the Seraphine and the Senna. So far, really disappointed in the Camille pick of not actually being able to get anything accomplished.
Yeah, a lot of thought has to go in because I think that this Seraphine pick has really paid dividends for that first that B1 investment. You've got to think about that if you're, because Reign of Kings, they opted for the red side. They knew that this first pick Seraphine was a possibility, and they opted into it.
Yeah, it's a bit surprising, right? Obviously, they seem to have a couple of like the pocket picks that they did not want Xflow to pick. But when you leave up those pocket picks, or sorry, when you ban pocket picks, you leave up OP power picks like champion like the Seraphine, who is just a very strong current champion in the meta. So, if you are a Reign of Kings, like obviously, you could be thinking like, okay, like maybe this game is still winnable, but going into game 2. If you choose to go back on the red side, because obviously they felt like red side was going to be the much better side for them, they're going to have to potentially change some things up here a little bit. But to go back to this game a little bit, they are using the Baron pressure here pretty effectively, able to get the mid lane tower. And Slappy, once again, the continuous pressure being put on here is doing really dividends here.
Backup is just getting annihilated over the wall by Hammy. He's going to have to flash away from Polish Pharaoh as well. Wow.
Yeah, just taking a lot of unnecessary damage there, and ultimately does have to blow his flash. And really the key objective here is going to be for the next two and a half minutes or so when that Mountain Dragon does end up spawning here. So really, if you're Xflow, it's all about just putting pressure on the map, making sure Reign of Kings is not allowed to really leave their base, and just leave a track record of wards and control wards to where Reign of Kings is just not going to want to enter their darkened jungle here because of the fog of war that you're going to look to accomplish here. So as long as they're able to hold the pressure and not really look to kind of just go crazy with some plays, this should be Xflow's Dragon once again, unless Reign of Kings is able to make a play happen.
Yeah, basically have to just find... Like, the only way they win is basically exactly picking Seraphine. I think picking anyone else, there's still a very real chance that they lose the 4v5 just because of how powerful all the members of Xflow Pink are currently.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you there because, not only does the Seraphine have a lot of healing, but she does have the ornaments to come through as well. She does have the Andre's liaments, I believe is what the laments, maybe what the actual, like, upgraded version is. But yeah, this champion is actually doing a lot of damage in these team fights. So Slappy, he's trying to get something done down here on the boss side, but Wukong is on his way down here, and Slappy does not have flash.
Yeah, Slappy had to go for that one, and now he's gonna die for it, because Polish Pharaoh is making a play on him. There's no play to be made by Reign of Kings on the other side, actually almost getting forced out half health by Hammy on Senna. So, just two strong sides for Xflow Pink right now, as it were.
Yeah, and once again, Dragon spawning up here in about a minute's time, and really, like, Xflow just wants to keep the pressure on the bottom half of the map. Yes, Victor's pushing on top lane. Who cares? You can pick a top lane outer. I don't really care about that. The only objective that I really care about is making sure we have control, making sure there's not really any flank wards up and available, which there isn't any here for Reign of Kings. There's no TP opportunity to come through for this Camille, and really it's going to be ultimately just to pure execution from this point of Xflow. You kind of done their
Yeah, Trice is going to go for Renchi, but he's going to find a Hastega that he didn't bargain for. They're going to try and wait out the Demonic Ascension, and he'll actually be able to walk out the other side as a result of that one. The Zanya's stalling enough time that the threat of his team collapsing was enough to force Renchi and Hastega away.
Yeah, almost a really big mistake there by Trice Cross, but fortunately for him, They had the Fog of War available for them. They did not know whether or not Xflow was coming up to the top lane to protect their mid laner. And obviously on stream, you're probably thinking, what is this guy doing? Like, why are they not killing this guy? But in order for like, it's pretty dangerous just to chase after somebody into Fog of War like that. But Dragon is up on the Rift. The Mountain Soul Point is up and available for Xflow. They are once again grouped up. Camille is on the bottom half of the bush, potentially looking for a flank. But even if he gets a flank off, you still have to be able to actually kill your target to come through. Camille
Yeah, the
is
Leandri's
looking.
Lament was handed over to Trice Cross, flash stun onto the Swain, and he's gonna go very low. The Encore only stuns up one, and are they gonna be able to finish him off? He's getting so much healing and shielding. Polish Pharaoh, meanwhile, has just soloed out the bottom side with the help of Yaone. Wit is going very low. Flash duel, finish up, double kill. Slappy is just forced away. Renji running into the enemy jungle. It's just a win on two sides by Xflow Pink. And Slappy might just die to Krugs here, actually. Searing Charge going to be interrupted there by the Gravity Field as Renji's just trying to kite it out, but it doesn't matter. The rest of his team is finishing up the Dragon as they speak. Yaone going very low. As he gets jumped up by Slappy, he will take the 1v2. Finishes on Slappy! And he's going to die to the Chaos Storm, but it's a 1-for-1 on the bottom side in exchange for the Mountain Soul for the rest of his team.
Yeah, not only the Mountain Soul, but also most likely the Baron on top of that as well, with Victor being the only champion alive. And we see Reign of Kings, they try to get on top of Trice Cross there, try to burst him out, but unfortunately they weren't all hitting the same target at the exact same time, so he lived with a little bit of HP. And Slappy also, pretty big misplay there at the top half of the fight, missed his hook shot on the wall, so was not able to get on top of Trice Cross. And we talked about the front line here of the Ornn and the Wukong.
Hold on, the Baron's going down, and now it's Trice Cross against the world of Reign of Kings. He's going very low. He's going to stopwatch, get a little bit of healing away from the red buff. It's going to be smited away. The Encore doesn't quite connect onto any members of Reign of Kings. They're honestly just thankful that they didn't die on that one as the Baron picked up by Xflow Pink.
Yeah, once again, Trice Cross, he's making some, like, he's trying to get in the face of things, right? Like, he realized that this game is basically in control, but he still wanted to maybe have a little bit of fun, as this game is basically coming to a close here in game one. But yeah, we talked about, like, also the frontline differential here of both Reign of Kings and Xflow. Like, Wukong and the Ornn were basically able just to walk at the Victor.
Wit slowed up by the Vision of Empire. He's just perma-slowed. Hammy just autos him. 1, 2, 3. He's down. Wit falling down just randomly in the mid lane. That might be the end of the game.
Yeah, and that's the power of 140 Senna Soul stack right there. The insane range that you get. And this is a support, by the way, guys. That's a support's damage coming through onto a Karma. It's like, how do you ever actually deal with this champion as the game ends up scaling up? And the pressure is on here for Reign of Kings. Like, I would most likely assume they're going to probably give up this mid tower and the mid inhibitor.
Yeah, with Wit not available, that's a huge chunk of their damage that they're lacking right now, as Trice is really happy to just walk forward into the rest of the Reign of Kings. And now Bad Cop is gonna get the same fate as his AD carry. Slappy goes in with a hook shot, doesn't stun up anybody, and now he's gonna go down as well. Hampy just ripping him apart with these 30,000 range auto attacks, it feels like. Meanwhile, Renji gonna get caught by the Cyclone. Wit respawns and gets pulled back in to die again. Game one going to Xflow Pink, almost certainly. There's no way they throw this one from here, right? There goes the Nexus, and there goes game one.
Game one victory is picked up here for Xflow, and we talked about, like, just the simplicity of this composition, the ability to just kind of scale up, play these team fights accordingly, front to back, death ball together. And we saw a couple attempts there from Reign of Kings, but their composition, when you're diving that far forward, leaving your Sivir and your Victor behind to try to do damage, is just never really going to work out for them. And it showed in this game, right? Several execution like mistakes coming through from Reign of Kings, which is why Xflow Pink able to pick up the game one victory.
Yeah, so we're going to take a short break as we get set up for Xflow versus Reign of Kings game number 2. We'll see if Reign of Kings can even up the series or if Xflow will put themselves at match point. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in just a few. Internet, hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Reign of Kings versus Xflow Pink series. Xflow Pink currently picking up the game one victory to put themselves 1-0. Ryan, let us know how did that game go? Because it didn't look pretty from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the initial plays from Red of Kings, like their kind of their jungler follow breath. He knew he had to get things going active, but unfortunately for him, a couple of ganks he got the flashes out, but they didn't necessarily amount to much. And then when the team fights came through, unfortunately for them, they eventually just kind of got deathballed up together, and their execution just wasn't quite as good as they should, as sharp and as clean as they would have liked it to be. So, but Reign of Kings, they have adjusted a little bit here. They're going to blue side here, so they do have the option of having that B1 pick here. So curious to see if the Seraphine kind of priority of the meta is still going to kind of stay around, because we see the orange band coming through from Xflow. So obviously they noticed that pick was very annoying, but Xflow realized that they don't want to give ROK even a chance to think about that Seraphine option. So they end up banning that one away as well. But the four other bans, the Yumi, the Lilia, the Misfortune, the Mordekaiser, all end up saying the same. But ROK wants the Senna for themselves in game number two.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Reign of Kings starting support, the Leroy has rejoined the roster for this game number 2, Bad Cup 74 subbing back on out. Yeah, the Senna is going to be B1 with the Seraphine band away, and no surprise, at least for me, Exlo Pink are just going to pick up the Wukong in their first rotation, seeing that one go over.
Yeah, and honestly, I think for Polish Pero, I thought he had a very good Wukong game, right? Like obviously, he didn't really have to do a whole lot. His teammates kind of did it for him, but he did his job of actually buying space, being able to make sure his front line, his backline units, yeah, the Follow Bear and the Camille, they were diving on them, but they could survive that initial dive. It was the on top of damage from the Victor, from the Sivir that they really had to worry about. So I do like that pick coming through. Also, for Hammy here, the Zillion pick, I believe it's most likely gonna go to Hammy. I don't know if Trice Cross actually plays it, but I know Hammy plays a lot of the Zillion picks. I'm curious to see if that position does kind of go in there. But it does look like the Cinna and the Poppy and the Tom Kinch are gonna come here for Reign of Kings as well.
Yeah, the Zillion is something that was banned against Xflow Pink a lot in the Titan Gaming Hyperion series. So maybe now we'll eventually get to see why, as they'll pick up the rather speedy duo of Sivir Zillion. A lot of power to speed up one particular champion in those two picks. The Poppy and the Tom Kench, like you said, coming through, it makes it most likely to be Senna TK in the bottom lane, if I had to guess.
Mhm. Yeah, most likely. Obviously, Tom Kent soloing was a thing for a little while. But if I had to put my money on it, I would prefer the Senna to Tom Kent to kind of be together. I'm curious to see if this is going to be the farming Senna or the farming Tom Kent. Typically, Senna's drop rate with her souls is higher when she's not killing the minions. So like the Tom Kent does farm it out, you're able to get like a much tankier Tom Kent, which can provide like the ability to kind of frontline for the Senna. So I'm curious to see kind of what the direction is going to be when they actually get into the lobby here. But obviously four bans have come through. It is only mid bans here for both teams. So I mean, obviously Reign of Kings, they're also saying the Cillian pick is most likely going into Hammy's support position here. And if they do keep the flex pick open, they could lock in their top laner here. But instead, they're gonna look to do the Talia instead in the mid lane, giving their top lane counter pick for game number two.
Yeah, and I think Talia is just such a monster of a champion. A lot of ability to control zones, AoE, CC potential if you land a multi-man seismic shove, and of course Weaver's Wall is a very powerful tool in the right hands. Morgana moused over here, which is probably a jungle pick if it is locked in for Hastega. Surprisingly enough, one of the early adopters of Morgana Jungle when it was really popular, and
Hmm.
then someone who persists in picking up Morgana jungle, it is going to be locked in, and if I had to guess, it's going to be a Hastega jungle Morgana.
Yeah, I mean, I know Morgana Jungle was a thing a couple of patches ago, and I believe it was a champion that was picked into. I believe it was the champion that was picked into Poppy in like the eastern parts of the world, like LPL, LCK. That's kind of like where like the Morgana ended up getting picked up. But it said they actually end up pairing it with the Poppy here in this one, so it's actually going to end up being Poppy top lane Morgana in the jungle and Victor into the mid lane here for as the composition does completely unfold here. So I'm curious to see what this counter pick is going to be here for Xflow because Poppy is not necessarily the most strongest top laner in the lane, but it is still a very annoying champion to kind of deal with in that top lane matchup. So I'm curious what Xflow is going to end up picking here, and it's going to end up being that Aatrox pick, one of the champions that I actually think is very, very powerful in the current meta just because like, he is able to do a lot of damage to he's basically a tank buster, and a lot of compositions that are being like made in today's current meta usually rely on having a tank in the top lane. So I do like the HO picks to come through.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned at this Morgana pickup here because it's really hard actually to land Dark Binding on a lot of the champions that Xflow Pink have picked up. You've got a spell shield to contend with. You've
Mhm.
got a lot of speed available for both everyone when Sivir ults and Zillion whenever he speeds anybody. If you land it, you probably have to contend with Chrono Shift, and then additionally, Talia is a champ. Or you have to land it on like past the decoy if Wukong wants to use that defensively to block skill shots. Talia is a very long range champion. I'm not sure how I feel about this Morgana pick, especially considering that you picked it into a lot of these champions that are particularly difficult to abuse with Morgana. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to agree with that statement. I'm curious to see like just kind of how depending on where this Morgana goes, right? Because Morgana doesn't necessarily have to be jungle, right? Like you could put Tom
True,
King
true.
top, you could put Poppy in the jungle, and you could send the Morgana into the support position here, to kind of help out the Senna a little bit. So we will have to kind of wait and see exactly where these champions are going. I think for Xflow, everyone's kind of locked into a position that's like most likely pretty standard. But ROK they can do a interesting like kind of assortment of like where these champions are actually going to go. So we will kind of wait and see. That obviously, Slappy is going to lock in the Poppy for himself, but the champions can be moved around until about 20 seconds or so, and that's when after 20 seconds, if all the champions are locked in, that's when everyone is locked into their position. So
Yeah, I tend to believe that it's going to be Morgana jungle just
mhm.
because that's something that I know that Hestega plays and enjoys and thinks is
Yeah,
very viable. Uh, and you know, say what you will, Morgana jungle is not a meta champion for a reason, but it can work if it's something that you're very comfortable on. But
mhm.
again, I still think that it's not the pick for this particular game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of also like kind of like back to your point, like Morgana can only really stop like the one like the one spell shield to come through, and you also like kind of lacking in damage really because your two main damage threats are gonna be Victor and the Senna to come through. Morgana, yeah, like decent damage. Same with Poppy, that they have a lot of setup, but they don't necessarily have the most damage to come through. And Aatrox is one of those champions where like if you don't kill him, he is ultimately just going to soak up all the damage and just kill you in return and just start really like dealing with this front line. So they're gonna have to find a way to really like to deal with this Aatrox, especially with the Zillion speed ups and the Siffer speed ups. Aatrox and Wukong can definitely start running over this game if they're not careful.
Yeah, I do like the Tom Kench a lot. It does help quite a bit in negating things like Wukong and Aatrox that are trying to just dive on you. Uh, your Senna is basically gets one get out of jail free card with the Tom Kench, and then potentially another one depending on how Hastega uses Black Shield, whether he uses it defensively for his Senna or if he just puts it on himself and runs at the enemy team. That'd be interesting to see, but a lot of pressure going to be put on Wit and Renji to really pump out the damage necessary to chew through Xflow Pink's team comp this time. At the very least, they don't have to go through Senna shields and Seraphine shields this game.
Yeah, and that's certainly gonna help, right? Like obviously it's the less about the death ball kind of composition. It's more honestly like for both team, it's like who can catch who out of position and actually like, really secure a couple of kills to come through because the chase potential of both these teams, like you have the Morgana binding, the Poppy, like the layering of CC to come through is actually very easy to play off of. It's just actually making sure you can really secure the first target and move on to the next.
All right. Well, we are going to take a short break while we wait out this spectator delay. Reign of Kings down 0-1. They have the chance to even up the series here, or if Xflow Pink come out ahead, they will put themselves one game away from eliminating Reign of Kings. We'll see you in just a few. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Summoner's Rift.
Internet, hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Reign of Kings vs. Xflow Pink series. We are into game number 2 with Reign of Kings now on the blue side as they opted for. Xflow Pink now taking the red side. Once again, not really much to see here at the level 1. Both teams just 5 pointing away.
Yeah, so far, pretty standard 5-point here. And I'm curious to see, kind of how this game unfolds, right? Because last game, is a very similar, not necessarily similar, but very simplistic idea coming out of Xflow here. The fact that you had, just a really beefy front line with the two double kind of enchanter with the Seraphine Senna in the bot lane to really kind of bolster them to make sure that the dive wasn't really possible and just kind of have a better front line 5v5 group up team fighting here. And I think for both teams here, I think this game is going to be a little bit more scrappy, a little bit more dependent on overall actual mechanics a little bit in my opinion, because it's not as straightforward. It's a little bit more playmaking on both ends, and this game should be a little bit closer in overall expectancy to come through in terms of not necessarily a big comp difference as game 1 was.
Yeah, last game there was also a little bit of inevitability just because Xflow Pink had this very superior ability to team fight compared to Reign of Kings. Reign of Kings not able to split the map appropriately. Interestingly enough, I think, is that Polish Pharaoh opted for the blue smite rather than the red smite that I think is a lot more common on Wukong jungle.
Yeah, it could be because he wants to make sure that he can just slow down the opponents, right? Because his other champions on his team are very skill shot reliant. Like you have the Aatrox, you have Talia, those champions they need to land their spells to actually start doing damage, and that's the slow can actually help with that process as well. Same thing as Sicilian, right? The E coming through will obviously help a lot. And we talked about this bot lane here a little bit, how Senna Tahm Kench, the drop rate for Senna is higher when you're not actually farming. So it is Leroy going to be farming it out here as Wit does fire his Q backwards. So it's a pretty unfortunate trade for him down in the bot lane. But ultimately, this lane is going to be pretty relatively even. Prey also starting with the Cole in this bot lane, knowing that he's probably not going to be under that much pressure in this lane.
Yeah, Senna Tahm Kench, surprisingly powerful in lane for having this melee champion farming, but early on here it's going to be a lot of pressure for him to just farm up while being harassed by 2 champions that outrange him.
Yeah, exactly, and the setup there is very easy for Tahm Kench and Senna, right? You have the knockup coming through, followed by the root if there are no minions really nearby, so the combination is relatively easy to play. It's just a matter of being able to kind of suffer through the early range discrepancy you were talking about. And it does look like both junglers are finishing up on the similar sides of the map, but Morgana is actually up 2 entire camps here. Definitely done the entire jungle plus the crab, and Wukong skipped over the wolves here, so you can kind of see the power of this Morgana pick. The ability to kind of clear with the W to come through is a very, very powerful tool to really clear away these camps. So definitely outpacing.
This looks like a dive angle. There's a stun root onto Yane from the Dark Binding, but they did not feel comfortable enough to follow that up with the charge coming out from Poppy into the tower. I think Polish Pharaoh, I don't know if he intentionally did this, but skipping those wolves meant he was able to finish the Krugs before Hastega wandered into his jungle and found him on them. So, is able to get his recall off before the Morgana shows up, ends up wasting a little bit of Hastega's time in exchange for not picking up those wolves.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could kind of give credit to him, right? It's ultimately you can't necessarily question someone for doing something that can be considered kind of out there, without actually questioning them about it. So, but yeah, Slappy taking a lot of very unfortunate trades here from Yone, just walking into those Q2 and Q3 there, and a couple more of those trades, and all of a sudden you're very much in lethal range here from the Aatrox. So. Definitely gonna have to be a little bit careful here, because there it goes. There's Q1 and Q2. Q3 Flash is dead, but doesn't want to go for it.
Yeah, Slappy does have his own flash to flash away if he has the appropriate reaction time to that one. But Yone playing very respectfully, does just continue to pressure out Slappy with the threat of the flash rather than actually using it. Slappy now very low, but not really a diveable champion is this Poppy, with the shield especially coming back up. Yane will just kind of have to watch here as Slappy is able to pick up all of this, all these minions under tower probably. Not all of them, I guess. He just missed one.
Yeah, it's still pretty dangerous here for the Poppy. She's gonna want to get a base off here. She's gonna want to TP back to the lane because Aatrox definitely can just like do very much quick bursts of damage. It's pretty sneaky damage sometimes because like you might not always think that those sweet spots are going to land from him. But overall, like everyone has just been farming, been very consistent about like making sure like all the camps are being cleared here. And really, I thought like with how the pace of the game was going, that Morgana was just going to start clearing through her camps over and over again, and just ultimately outpace the Wukong. But Azteca spent a lot of time on the bottom side of the map, making sure that we're simply like a gank that's going to happen, and that has ultimately led to the fact that Wukong is now only down, like he's still down the 2 camps. Which he could be down ultimately like maybe like 3 or 4 camps if Morgana was just continuously looking to clear. So definitely just kind of like potentially looking to replace Trice Cross.
Renji actually dodging a lot of skill shots coming out from Trice. He actually drops the Chaos Storm and forcing the flash out of Trice Cross as the second Death Ray came out. A little bit of outplay here for Renji in the mid lane rather, but without that ultimate will not be able to take as aggressive of trades once Trice Cross is able to return to the lane. It is amounting to about 20 CS discrepancy in that mid right now.
Yeah, Renji's dominating this mid lane matchup here, and to be honest, it's somewhat to be expected here for the Victor Taliyah matchup early on in the game, as Slappy's taking a pretty chunk of a trade here. Definitely not going to be anywhere near lethal because he has just so much like HP to chew through, but definitely a really good job this game by Renji, making sure he's able to like really take advantage of this mid lane matchup. It's plus 20 CS with also a kill. Actually,
Slappy actually going back. Oh, just gets soloed out as Yone drops the 3rd Q on top of him. Wow.
Yep, and that's the power of the Aatrox. Yeah, and that's the power of the Aatrox with the sweet spots, right? We talked about like he has a little bit of sneaky damage to where like if you're not always expecting it like that, you will take a good 50% of your HP bar very, very easily. And Slappy, he already used his TP to get back to lane and then get solo killed. That's like one of the worst ways to die as a top laner, because not only do you lose out on the kill, but you also lose out on 2 consecutive waves back to back here. So gone from bad to worse up here in the top lane here. Definitely a nice job by Yone getting an early lead.
Oh, here we go. There comes the Weaver's Wall from Trice Cross. Whip flashes over it, but Leroy is not able to make it all the way across. He'll have to flash over it as well. 2 flashes burned for the ultimate from Trice Cross is a trade you'll take any day of your Xflow ping.
Yeah, really good usage there of the Weaver's Wall. Yes, he's getting pretty handled there in the mid lane matchup by the Victor, but this is what Taliyah really wants to do. You want to get active on the map. You want to make sure you're actually able to, really make sure to use the innate mobility of this champion to make plays for your team early on into the game. And with those flashes being burned on the bottom side of the map, this dragon is going to get picked up here by Xflow. Obviously, it is going to be traded here by Random King to pick up the Rift Herald here, but still, it's a nice pick up here on the top half of, the bottom half of the map here by Xflow.
Yeah, I just realized Trice Cross picked up the Tear of the Goddess on Taliyah as hold on a second because Hammy is coming around the side. Double Bomb's not quite going to connect onto Wit, but Leroy will not connect the Abyssal Dive either. Just trading a little bit of HP awkwardly there. I don't think Taliyah is a mana hungry enough champion to warrant going for the Archangel Staff. I was informed last week that it is a thing to hold on a second, hold that thought, because Yane just popped the World Ender, is going to try and chase Slappy down the lane. Does he have the third, or the Qs coming back up? There's the first one, is going to get the sweet spot. The second one will as well. Slappy throws the Keeper's Verdict to try and survive. Yane flash, third Q! Slappy has flash, but he didn't use it! Just goes down once again!
Yeah, Slappy, like, that death is just, like, that's, I can't really, like, kind of give you anything for that death, because you kind of just killed yourself by one, tackling forward when you had flash, and just ultimately just being very disrespectful to the Aatrox's damage. So, yeah, definitely a very, very big mistake here for Slappy, because not only did you lose game 1, but you're also putting yourself in a position where this Aatrox is going to run over the rest of your team if this league continues to bloom.
Yeah, the Eclipse finished up for Yone is gonna mean that this lane is nigh on unplayable if it wasn't already for Slappy.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good for that top lane here. As the rest of the map is still trying to make plays. Obviously, Hammy has ticked over to level 6, so he does have access to that Chrono Shift. So any health trade or any lethal trade that Zillion is around will obviously be advantage towards him because he does have access to that ability. As Trice Cross,
Oh, here we go. We've got a 3-man in the mid lane. There's the Cyclone coming up from Renji into the double time bomb. And Renji doesn't bother wasting his summoners. He knows he's going down. Unfortunately for Xflow, it is picked up by Hammy with that second time bomb.
Yeah, still though, it's a nice little pickup there, Bond to Renji. Yeah, Renji did not use Flash there, so he does still have access to that Summoner spell. But yeah, still, really well done here. Trying to get this Talia back into a pretty even state in the mid lane because, she is that champion that, once you are able to get the consistent mid push into the Victor, you can just continuously make plays up onto the map here. So really well done there to continue the lead that they already have built into the game.
Yeah, Hastega's yet to really make an impact on this game. He is farming up quite well, but Polish Pharaoh has gotten that gank off mid lane, and Hastega's kind of left relegated to picking up the waves that Slappy would lose every time he dies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Hasega, he's got really good farm. 87 at the 11-minute marker. He's actually out farming his top laner because he's died twice solo kill. But yeah, like, this Morgana is like a champion that doesn't necessarily have the... well, you can probably gank the mid lane relatively easy, especially because, Trice Cross at one point in time had no flash because Renji was dominating this mid lane matchup. Solo blew Trice Cross's flash, but unfortunately was not able to make that return back into the mid lane to really punish that CD. And so far, like, this Morgana pick has not ultimately ended up in anything. So he's gonna have to find, some sort of angle to really kind of like use the gold that he has from just farming to really start like making a dent in this game.
Yeah, at the very least though, it's going to be more difficult to gank on a Trice Cross now that he's picked up the Mercury Shreds. MR and Tenacity really efficient here in this particular matchup against Victor Morgana.
Yeah, I think.
Meanwhile, a little roam here from Trice Cross does get the stun onto the Leroy, but not enough damage available. The Rift Herald's going to be picked up and dropped in the mid lane as a result of that roam into the bottom side. So there's some value you're getting out from this jungle Morgana. I honestly didn't even realize he took the Herald.
Yeah, they got the Herald when they got the Dragon Trade down on the bottom side of the map. So it was a good usage there to kind of push the Victor's lead over this Talia. As Yone does need to be a little bit careful here. He does have the jungle on the bottom side of the map here for him, and there's 3 members coming up here, but he does have the control word, so he is, what are you doing?
Yeah, actually lands the Dark Binding here. The World Ender's going to be dropped, as will the Chains, and they're just going to chain CC him down. A lot of disrespect from Yone there. He clearly saw Hastega in the brush with the control ward, gets hit by Dark Binding anyway as he walks up and spams his Mastery emote at him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what CCS has, but like that might be win trading. I don't necessarily know, but yeah, that was really grief. Just to kind of walk in next to the bush and say, "Hello, Morgana, you can kill me now." But yeah, really just taking the lead that he had and just like putting it further behind his Trice Cross is also putting himself in a pretty awkward position here too.
Yeah, didn't land the seismic shove, and now he's just gonna get perma slowed up by the Leroy, and here comes the ultimate from Senna. He'll get chrono shifted as Polish Pharaoh around the side is gonna find his way onto Wit. Trice Cross pops back up, flashes away from the death ray. Polish Pharaoh will force the flash out from Wit as here comes Hastega around the side. He's just trying to finish off Trice Cross, will successfully do so, now running away as the double time bomb's not gonna connect. The Black Shield was available anyway. Slappy is here as well now as they're gonna try and fight for this dragon. It's a 4v5 on the map as Trice Cross is 20 seconds away from the respawn, but Wit very low, has to recall himself. It's going to be going over to Xflow unless there's a steal potentially coming in.
Yeah, the Sega is still in the area, but Dragon does end up falling quick. Will the chase come through here for Random Kings? It does not look like it. They're just going to back away. Second Dragon of the game does go to Xflow, besides the fact that multiple kills went the way of Reign of Kings. So overall, gold is going back towards even as the tackles. That was weird.
Yeah, he did actually hit the Wukong as he got that little mini dash away off the decoy. And now Slappy actually just kind of taking a ton of damage there, but is able to weave his way away from Trice Cross's damage.
Yeah, it does look at the tower. Actually, first tower of the game does end up falling to this Aatrox here that has been dominating the top lane of the map. And it's like, Xflow trying to get the bottom lane tower at the same time that Reign of Kings is trying to pick up this mid lane tower, but Talia doing a nice job of absorbing the pressure in the mid lane, using her really solid wave clear to make sure this mid lane tower does not end up falling at the end of the day. So, Xflow still in a winning position, in my opinion. They still have the winning side lane with the Aatrox over this Poppy. So, and he will be able to use his power to really just kind of fight.
Yeah, Yaone coming in with the World Ender is now trying to get on the Slappy, but he's got the Black Shield to keep him nice and safe away from any CCS. Stega's got the Dark Binding cooldown just coming back up. They'll back away. They don't have mid priority as Renchi did have to take a recall.
Yeah, it's going to be back on the map, obviously, for Yone. I like the attempt there, but with Morgana around, with having the Black Shield available, like the knockups obviously aren't not going to be able to come through. The damage still is very nice, though, onto the Poppy, but unfortunately not quite able to keep the Poppy locked into one place here. So it does look like, most likely the next play for both these teams is probably going to be around the Rift Herald, which has spawned back up here. And we saw last game, Xflow did a pretty good job of actually just using the Rift Herald to be able to get pressure into the mid lane, because they knew that grouping for these objectives, or the Dragon specifically, was going to become a very big deal. Now, this game is a little bit different. Obviously, both these teams do want to group up together, but it's less about the grouping up of the death ball composition. It's more or less about playing through their CCs to come through. As Polish is seeing Slappy here. I don't think he has the damage to actually really deal with it.
He actually does commit the Cyclone. The Keeper's Verdict is going to be used, but cancelled out by the second prog of Cyclone, flashing away from the double time bombs. He will get the shield from Dawning Shadow, and that'll be the end of that one. So Slappy burning his flash in exchange for Polish Pharaoh's ultimate.
Yeah, nice trade there from Polish to get the Cyclone off in order to burn the Slappy's
There's a Dark Binding is going to connect in, and they're going to force the Chrono Shift out of Hammy. They're going to try and protect him with the help of Trice-Cross's Unraveled Earth, and they will successfully extract the Zillion. Just a little quick burn on the Chrono Shift will mean an advantage to Reign of Kings. If they can hold on a second, Dark Binding is going to connect as well. Lands the W from Senna as well, but no damage to follow through. They just don't have anything to follow up on this CC they're landing.
Yeah, no damage to follow through, and with all the attention happening towards the mid lane, it does mean the Rift Herald does end up falling all the way towards Xflow. And once again, we saw the pressure that this objective is able to kind of put towards the mid lane here. It looks like they could end up spawning it right here, but instead they might be able just to walk up this mid tower to pick it up. It's only Senna. Slappy is around. Here goes Tom Kenchno.
Dive coming in, doesn't land the knockup on anyone. They're Dark Binding onto the Zillion, and he's got no Chrono Shift from earlier. There's the cooldown finally paying off. They will use the on the hunt to run away, but they lost the Zillion, and they did barely finish off that tower in the mid.
Yeah, they do end up picking up the mid tower, though, which is ultimately what they wanted out of that exchange. Yes, you lose your Zillion, but ultimately picking up that one tower for just one kill on the back half in play is ultimately a win here for Xflow, because obviously, with the mid tower down, you are able to extend your vision line a little bit deeper into the enemy team's jungle and actually be able to kind of do it safely. So it is going to be a little bit harder to actually farm in the mid lane here for the side of Reign of Kings, because you don't have the safety of your mid lane tower. So it does look like the next 40 seconds or so are going to be put by both teams to make sure that the vision being placed in the Dragon area, and just overall the ability to set up for this objective is going to be very important for time to come for the next 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, it's only about 1,000 gold discrepancy between these two teams, but 3 towers down in favor of Xflow. There's a lot of standing gold on the map for Reign of Kings if they're able to claim it. Now, the Leroy is going to be in between Prey and the Dragon area, so he'll be able to cut him off if it weren't for the fact that Yaone and Hammy coming in to cut him off. Seeing if this Dragon will be contested. It's spawning in about 10 seconds. Renji throwing down a Death Ray, a little bit of damage coming down onto the members of Xflow as they clear out a control ward.
Yeah, it's all going to be about if Reign of Kings can actually enter into this area, right? Like, you have a lot of ability to zone with this Helia, with this Zillion, but here's the pressure from the Rift Herald. Someone is going to have to respond to this thing, or it's just going to end up taking your mid-tier 2 by itself. And there's the Helia,
and the Weaver's Wall comes in, cuts off the corridor. That means X will have a little bit of time. It does go down, though, and the Dragon's still fairly healthy, but Hastega has no way of getting into the pit. They're going to have to force their way in just by walking. Tries to be the target, stunned up, cleansed away. Here is the Leroy in the backside with the Abyssal Dive. Slappy kicks out as juggler! Now, Yaone goes in. He gets interrupted by the Keeper's Verdict. They're gonna use the Dark Binding, doesn't connect, and there's the Gravity Field cutting off the corridor. It's a big stun coming out from Renji, but he's gonna get Cyclone, and he's taken down by Yaone. Yaone is just trying to wreak havoc in the backside. Slappy will get eaten up by the Leroy, but that means Hestega doesn't have an eat available to him. Wit trying to do damage over the side, cannot finish up Hammy. Bray trying to turn around, will finish up the Leroy. Slappy gets another steadfast presence running at the side. He's chased away by the members of Xflow. It's a 1-for-3 in favor of Xflow. Pink as Slappy might make it 4. He goes in for the charge onto Yaone, doesn't have the damage to finish him off. The Eclipse Shield coming out. Slappy's trying to run for his life, gets the third proc. There's the Infernal Chains, and he'll get auto down for the kill.
Yeah, Wit is still in the area. He's going to try for a miraculous steal. Polish does have smite, so this should go to him as long as he smites below 900. Yep, there it is. He ends up securing the dragon for his team, putting his team on sole point with spawning around the 25-minute marker as well. And that fight was very back and forth for the first 15 to 20 seconds of the fight, but crucially, Reign of Kings split up during the fight. Tom Kinch goes down, rest of the team goes up, and unfortunately for them, they were able to just not have the ability to really section off these fights, and with the zone control of the Xflow's composition, they were able to pick up the victories. Hammy potentially been caught out here. He does have the movement speed.
He will dodge away with the movement speed away from the Abyssal Dive, and that'll be the end of that one. Dark Binding gonna be eaten up by the Spell Shield. Yeah, it looked like a good start as Slappy was able to find the charge into the wall and the Tri-Cross, but the cleanse came through. He's able to flash away to avoid getting chain CC'd by the Dark Binding that was headed his way. And with those tools committed, they kind of just fell apart in the ensuing team fight.
Yeah, it honestly just looked like, you know, Xflow was just much more on the same page. Like, they were all together. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. The Zillion ultimately came on down to the Aatrox. And yeah, they did a really good job of the initial pick attempt. They burned the cleanse away from Tri-Cross. They initially did a lot of damage onto Yone, but once they used all that as abilities and as the fight continued to progress, unfortunately for ROK, their composition, they also just kind of fell apart, like you mentioned. Like, they just weren't able to kind of play together as well as they could have in that ensuing fight. And now ultimately you're put in a position where you're gonna have to basically play that exact same team fight 3 minutes from now, except now you're down about 2,000 gold or so as an Xflow lead.
Yeah, it's not as bad of a position as I think Reign of Kings were in game number 1, but it's definitely not favorable for them. As the Leroy's going to take a time bomb, Tri-Cross coming forward, Hestega looking for a potential pick over the wall. Prey is suspecting something maybe.
Yeah, they need to be a bit careful here because you only have the 3 members around, and Aatrox is off the map. He does have TP, so he could look for a play. There aren't really currently any TP flank wards. The only ward that would be considerable to a flank to would be the mid lane ward that you see on your screen here. But overall, like, that would be teleporting like kind of into the fight where it's already starting. So, but so far, like, you know, I think Xflow is pretty content with just kind of letting this game kind of play out and really making sure they don't really waste any summoner spells or any like crazy things to happen before this dragon does end up spawning here in about 2 minutes time, because currently Tri-Cross is playing without flash, and really every one of Xflow has no flash right now. So if they were to get caught out of position and Zillion was not around, they definitely could end up dying, and they could result in a bit of a snowball effect here for the side of Reign of Kings. So they're going to do a really good job of just not dying for the next 2 minutes or so until their flashes come back off cooldown, or else Reign of Kings can take over this game.
I will say, Reign of Kings are just because, and this is a mistake I think from Tri-Cross's perspective. He's going for Leandries into what appears to be Archangel's finish, which is a really, really low damage Talia build. So Reign of Kings do have a little bit of opportunity where the gold discrepancy is not as big as it would appear. It's mainly just entirely on Yaone. And yeah, he's very powerful. He's Eclipse, he's Black Cleaver, he's Hex Drinker. But if you can manage to split the map, maybe have Yaone in the bottom lane where he is, and pick up Hammy potentially, nice stopwatch.
Stopwatch does come through. Tom Kinch is trying to get on top of him, but yeah, doing a really good job there. Didn't use the Chrono Shift there, importantly, and also didn't use either of his summoner spells with the heal or the flash open and available. And if you look at the cooldowns coming through for the side of Xflow, they are coming back off cooldown. The only one is, like, you have a couple of seconds on Aatrox, Talia, and the Sivir. Their flashes will be back up though for this ensuing dragon fight, which is going to be in about 50 seconds here. And Xflow has already taken their resets. They already have a couple of control wards and the vision line already been placed at the front of that river, but they want to extend that vision line just a little bit deeper. That way they're able to really control the area with the Talia, with the Aatrox, to where like you don't want to allow Reign of Kings to actually enter into this area. If you're able to do that, then ultimately the Dragon Soul will be theirs. But really, like Morgana and like Poppy and like obviously, like, Sid and Victor, they have to get in range to actually really use their abilities to do well, especially this Morgana pick. If Morgana's only shooting her Q and her W from over the wall and just continues to get dodged out of, it's not going to look good for them.
Double time bombs from Hemi just to buy a little bit of time as they will get control of the area. Trice Cross just so threatening as Polish Pharaoh has snuck his way onto Wit! Cyclone to the backside! Wit is trying to cut it out. Here comes the teleport coming in from Slappy. Dark Binding lands onto the 80 carry! Has taken the backside. Soul Shackle stops it, but they've already lost Wit as Polish Pharaoh just solos him out! Leroy is in there. He's going very low. He gets the shield and has taken the backside. Will get slowly taken down as he didn't have the damage alone to finish off the back line. Hammy is able to walk out of there as well. Slappy on the run as Renji and Leroy, they just can't do anything here. They traded Polish Pharaoh for their AD carry, and Hastega was not able to get one back.
Yeah, both junglers are dead though. The dragon is still on the map, so there's no necessary guaranteed for either of these teams to pick this one up. But Xflow using the Weaver's Wall to section off the members here, and they are trying to burn it, and it does look like Xflow is going to be able to pick this one up. Slappy is walking around the area. He's going to try to get into the area. Victor as well can enter. It's at 2k, 1k, laser! Ooh,
almost gets it with the death ray, but it is secured. Infernal Soul to Xflow Pink. And what's the statistic on losing with Elder, or not Elder, Dragon Soul?
I believe it's like a 90% win rate when you pick up Dragon Soul. I believe.
Yeah, 90% if the statistics are to be believed, that we're gonna see Xflow Pink go up 2-0 in this series. Reign of Kings looking a lot better in this game than game number 1, but just not able to find the team fights they need.
Yeah, it honestly feels a little bit like just honestly execution error. Xflow is just playing a much better game currently than Reign of Kings, and when you're already down one game, it's a game two games in a row where they just have not quite really got their footing in this series. Ultimately, like, you know, if they end up losing this game as well, it's like ultimately like you're only down to one more game that you can really kind of like fall behind in and really have a chance to continue your run in the CCS playoffs here, because this is the lower bracket. You only get one more shot at this entire thing here, and it feels like it's slowly starting to slip away here if you are Reign of Kings in game number 2.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, in game number 1 and game number 2, Yamne has just been an absolute monster. Slappy dying several times very questionably, just dying with flash, dying to ganks that he knows are coming. And part of it, I think, is just play a little bit more respectfully of your opponents. You can avoid some of these unnecessary deaths, and this Aatrox has just been such a menace for them to deal with. Whereas Slappy has not really been able to peel appropriately for his team. You saw in that last team fight, he tried to get onto Polish Pharaoh and help Wit survive, but just wasn't able to do so.
Yeah, Renji's trying on a Trice Cross here, but nice little size.
Yeah, here comes Polish Pharaoh, sped up by the Zillion. He's over the wall. He's got the Cyclone. He's got the double time bombs as well, but there's the shield coming out from the Dawning Shadow. Renji almost finishes off Hammy, but had to get through the Chrono Shift anyway. Hastega does get a Dark Binding onto Polish Pharaoh. The Soul Shackle's in onto him as well. And will they be able to finish off the Wukong? He's got so much Omni-Vamp, but Wit does finally finish the job.
Yeah, he does seem to pick up the kill there, so it's overall a 1-for-1 trade, which if you're Reign of Kings, you're honestly pretty okay with, because they used a lot of resources. They have used the Chrono Shift, the Weaver's Wall, and the Cyclone, but Trice Cross is on the opposite side of the map here. He is trying to do a little bit of damage to Leroy, but he might end up getting caught out here if he's not careful.
Yeah, he's got Yaone here on the backside, but Slappy around the back. He doesn't land the wall slam, but the Dark Binding does onto Yaone. He's got a big amount of healing. Do they have it? He will eat up Slappy to keep him alive, and now Wit needs to back away. The Unraveled Earth still ticking underneath him. They will get another pick and key onto Yaone this time.
Yeah, Yone paying for Trice Cross's sins there, unfortunately for him, because it was initially the pickup attempt on the Trice Cross, but they realized that, hey, let's just kill the guy with the shutdown instead. And they are able to pick up the kill onto Aatrox. Unfortunately for Yone, if he would have landed that Q3, he might have potentially been able to survive a little bit longer, but still, Xflow being a little bit sloppy here for the last couple of minutes or so, just randomly dying on the map, giving Reign of Kings the ability to kind of let this Senna and this Victor pick up more and more items. And if you're looking at it, like Senna's 3, 1, and 2, picked up 2 items of her own. So, and if we're going to click on the soul count here, it is 86 souls. So not nearly as much as what as Prey had, Hammy had in
yeah.
game number 1. But still, this Senna is going to start doing more and more damage as this game goes on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Xflow Pink, they definitely have had some missteps in the last few minutes, but they are still looking at Infernal Soul. They are still looking at a little under 2,000 gold. They're actually starting up the Baron here, and Polish Pharaoh going very low. He was hitting it solo for quite a while before anyone on his team came in. Dawning Shadow! The smite used by Polish Pharaoh to stay alive, and they actually lose Prey immediately to the Baron, just wiping him out. Yaone now opting into a 1v5. Now he's on the run on the outside. Here comes the charge in from Slappy. Doesn't get a wall stun, and Hammy speeds him out. Leroy flashes for the tongue lash. Is going to look for the Abyssal Dive. It gets canceled out by the Blast Cone, but Wit just autos down Hammy for the kill.
Yes, but
now look, you've got Tristruss and Polish Pharaoh just pushing in on the mid lane, trying to get that a little bit damage down, and they will probably get the inhibitor. They've sent Renchi back to try and deal with them. Polish Pharaoh going to drop his decoy. The Chaos Storm is going to be used. He will get knocked out by the Cyclone just before going down. Tristruss is trying to finish off the inhibitor as he's getting focused out by Renji. And the rest of the team starting up the Baron already. They are only dealing with Yaone here, and it will be Hastega who secures the smite. Objective bounty exchanged for the inhibitor.
Yeah, and this game has completely flipped on its head here for Reign of Kings. Not only because, like, once again, Xflow just continues to make mistake after mistake in this game, but they're able to pick up the Baron on the back off of the play. Yone is in a bit of a precarious situation too.
Connects, but the Dark Binding has already been used. Yone gonna get slowed up by the blue smite here. Soul Shackles are gonna be invested. Slappy ready to follow up as the sun comes down, but Yone will flash away from it. Dark Binding gonna connect at max range, but no one to follow up at that range. 40 seconds on Elder Dragon.
Yeah, 40 seconds on Elder Dragon, but Reign of Kings have the Baron and now the gold lead as well. This is now Reign of Kings' game to lose, ultimately, because Hastega had a crucial Dark Binding there onto Prey with a Tormented Soul there, able to deal so much damage on top of Prey there, because he basically, the Chrono Shift went on to Polish instead of Prey, so ultimately it was a pick up there for Reign of Kings, but ultimately this is what matters, right? This dragon is a game-winning play.
He's in the middle of the pit with 4 members of Xflow Pink. Tricecross trying to cut off the area. Unraveled Earth is down. The Black Shield is used by Hastega. Tricecross is the target from Slappy. He'll get slowed up by the Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Double time up, not quite going to connect. Leroy gets in with a knock-up onto Tricecross. They're going to try and get in there. Hastega doesn't quite land the Dark Binding as Tricecross is just perma-slowing him with the Rylai's. Polish Pharaoh on the backside looking for the flank. Does have the Cyclone available, but now his team is too far away. They're going to funnel out through the Tri-Brush, which means they're putting themselves in a bit of a choke point. This is not where you want to be. They're sending someone back because the minions could just take out Nyx's turrets if they're allowed. Elder Dragon is started up.
Victor does have TP. Tricecross. Oh no!
Target! He's cleansed away from nothing. He's slowed. He's down! Wait, it's on a rampage, but the Elder Dragon has already been started up. Slappy's gonna see that one going down. It's down very, very low. Hastega coming in. Keeper's running big channels. Polish Pharaoh's not the target. They kicked out somebody else. Yaone in the backside.
He got it!
Secured by and now they're ready to rip them apart with the Elder just biting their heads off. Leroy goes down. There's Renchi going down. Hastega is the next to follow. One auto. Bite this head off. It's an ace for Xflow.
And that's going to be the game as well. This is going to be the game to victory because death timers are 30 plus seconds here for them to pick up they are going to end up picking up a game to victory after mistake here for Xflow. All it took was picking up the Elder Dragon to make sure they were able to win this game out. Tricecross getting picked off at the end of the game does not matter because Polish with the clutch up smite at the end of the game makes sure they pick up a victory here in game number 2.
Yeah, Reign of Kings now 1 game away from being eliminated from the CCS by Xflow Pink, a game that they beat in the regular season. Xflow Pink now 1 game away. We're going to take a short break as we go into game number 3. Reign of Kings now at death's door. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in just a few. Internet, hello, and welcome back to our coverage of the Reign of Kings Xflow Pink series. Xflow Pink now up 2-0 over Reign of Kings after a chaotic Elder Dragon fight.
Yeah, and honestly, like it was Xflow's game to lose, and then ultimately like, they started making a lot of mistakes. Ultimately, towards the Baron objective, and then it was Reign of Kings' game to lose, and then ultimately it kind of swayed back and forth, but it came down to the crucial Elder Dragon fight. Ultimately, towards the end of that game, and Wukong very clutchly came up with the smite at the end of the game, resulting in a ultimately a victory there for Xflow. And now all of a sudden, if you're Reign of Kings, like you started off the red side of the draft, it ultimately went pretty boom, in my opinion. And then back to blue side, it ultimately like panned out a little bit better for them in that game. And ultimately they ended up losing that game too. So now I'm curious to see like what the strategy is going to be going into game three. And now that both sides have not really worked out for you in this set.
Yeah, Reign of Kings opting to remain on the blue side after their loss in game number 2. This is their do or die moment to win out a game here. Uh, I so a lot of priority was put on Seraphine. Seraphine is banned by Xflow when they're on the red side, first picked by them when they're on the blue side. Um, I expect Xflow to ban it again. I wonder if Reign of Kings are maybe gonna put some priority on something like Wukong, as it's something that Xflow's jungler is obviously very comfortable on. He's played it both games today. He played it all 4 games last week. Um, Maybe it's time, and not only that, it's been an active problem for them. Wit just can't seem to get any damage off when he's just being harassed by the monkey all over his face. uh, Maybe it's time to think about banning or picking that. We know that Hestega can play it. Every jungler in a competitive team should be able to play Wukong right now. The champion is mechanically not super complicated and is also just very flexible, very powerful. If you honestly, this is one of those things where if you can't play it as a jungler, you're an active detriment to your team in champion select. But the point is, we know Hestega can play it, so maybe consider picking it up for Reign of Kings.
Yeah, I think you kind of give a pretty big point there with the fact that, like, like Wukong's flexibility, like, not only does this champion provide a lot of damage in these team fights, but he also provides just so much space for his teammates to really play the game. And that's really like as your carries, especially like the current jungle meta is kind of like a secondary support in a way. Like you don't necessarily provide that much damage, but you're ultimately there to really make sure your carries are able to really function in these team fights. And really, like the Wukong back-to-back games has provided so much space for his teammates while also still dealing a lot of damage to the backline carries. So I'm curious to see like kind of like what the adaptation is going to be, because I know that they banned Seraphine in the game in game number two. They banned away a couple of different options there as well. So I'm curious to see like kind of like what the game three plan is going to be. Like you mentioned, like are they going to pick up the Wukong? Are they going to go back to like what they ended up picking up in game number two? Right, like do they actually kind of have an identity going into game three? Because obviously they need to change something up, right? Like you're down 2-0, you got to win 3 games in a row in order to actually consider winning the series. So something's gonna have to change a little bit.
Yeah, pull off the reverse sweep. If it's gonna happen, it's gotta start here. Reign of Kings no longer have any remaining lives to go through before they're eliminated from CCS. And the other thing that I think might be worth looking at is uh maybe Hestega should try and play more for top lane. That seems to be, it could very well be the other way. Maybe he should be playing less for top lane. He's spent some time in top lane, but not as much as Polish Pharaoh, where Polish Pharaoh was able to get Yaone a lead early on in both of these first 2 games. He either needs to hard commit to going top lane and maybe they win out a 2v2, or he needs to stem the bleeding by making pressure somewhere else. In game one, he had a lot of good dives onto the bottom lane of Xflow Pink, but it wasn't able to result in anything. In game number 2, he just was relegated to kind of just picking up top lane farm whenever Slavy got soloed out by Yaone. Uh, I'm curious as to how they adapt to this, because and Slappy is a champion, is a player that we've seen pop off in CCS before. With a lead, he can really take over a game, but it's just been very difficult for them to find that. We are in Champion Select. They're gonna ban away the Zillion actually in this game number 3.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, like, obviously, like, they banned with Wukong and the Zillion. They left up Seraphine here, which what they are probably expecting Xflow to be the ones to ban it away, like they kind of did in game number two, which it is being banned away. So they did make some adaptations to draft. They recognized the Wukong was a problem. They weren't necessarily ready to pick that one up for themselves, so they ended up banning that one away, along with the Zillion pick that Hammy was able to provide a lot of success with. But now, obviously, you have a very strong B1 Sivir option, and I'm curious to what the jungle option is going to be here for Polish, which you still have a lot of options, right? Trundle's still active, Poppy's still active. Like you have a lot of very powerful junglers like currently in the meta. Jarvan as well. A very good answer into the Sivir because of her innate non-mobility as a carry. Yeah, she's very fast, but you can't actually outrun terrain when the Cataclysm comes down and drops on her head. So I do like the Jarvan option here for Polish. It reminds me very similar to Wukong, a champion that can just buy space and actually still do a lot of damage early into the game.
Yeah, there it is somewhat different, obviously. Jarvan is not as the game goes on will not be able to solo out a carry even when ahead necessarily, unlike the Wukong was able to. But
Mhm.
the Cataclysm, like you said, is just a way of making sure that that carry can be accessed by the rest of your team, and then Aphelios is going to be locked in as well.
Yeah, and once again, going right back to the Poppy pick here, and I honestly I'd be surprised if they're going to send this one back top lane, especially if this is an R3 Aatrox. Yeah, Yone definitely handled Slappy up in this top lane last game, so and honestly, it really worked out as a pick here. So I'm curious to see like is that going to be the option instead? Since the Ornn was left up from game number three, it is going to be picked up instead. So going with the much better scaling option here in the top lane instead of a much more of a bruiser option in the Aatrox.
Yeah, and I'm not all that surprised. This is Yaone's most played champion by far. And it's not like he was bad on Aatrox at all. Obviously, he popped off on the pick, but something that he's very comfortable on. He knows the matchups very well, and obviously his team is very good, very adept at playing with his Ornn. Will be an easy lock-in for them. If it's Poppy jungle, no sweat. He can take the top lane matchup regardless. Tarek is going to be banned away, and then Vi is going to be taken off the board. They're really thinking that this is top lane Poppy, so they're thinking of banning out junglers here on the
Yeah, I
side of
mean,
Xflow.
yeah, well, to be fair, Slappy did just play this Poppy up in the top lane, and maybe they feel like, Hestega it's not quite in his type of champion pool. So maybe that's why they're banning out some junglers here. And also, I don't necessarily blame them. Like right now, they don't necessarily have the greatest option of actually getting on top of this Aphelios besides just the Nautilus coming through. Like, yeah, like Poppy can definitely get on top of him too, but it's mostly just like sprinting at him, right? And most likely the support pick to come through will definitely be some form of like disengage or like some enchanter that could really help the Lulu like thrive. Sorry, the Aphelios to thrive in a lot of these team fights. Lulu comes to mind, maybe Thresh, maybe the Janna as well as like options that could come through to really help this Aphelios to really operate in a lot of these team fights to come through. And that is a Lee Sin very, very early. And this is game three, by the way. Game three, if you don't win this game, you go home, and they're betting it all on Lee Sin.
Wow, okay. So Lee Sin locked in for Hestega, presumably. I doubt it's gonna be top lane Lee Sin or anything like that,
Yeah.
but you gotta leave the possibility open. But Lee Sin did get some very, very minor buffs recently, I think mostly to his energy regen on his passive. So I mean it's not nothing, but it's not it's I don't think it's particularly meaningful, but I'm not a great Lee Sin player myself, so maybe it's bigger than I expect. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, energy ratios are always going to be very nice to have, and you do have a very staple mid laner in the Azir here for Renji. Not feeling super confident on the Victor, even though he's had two pretty solid games on it, and both game one and game two. But instead, wanted to go for the Azir. But the fact that the Akali was left open here for Trash Cross it does end up getting locked in here as the R5 option. So it does look like, both these teams, like, obviously, for Reign of Kings here, they really want to get on top of the Aphelios and really make sure that he's having a really rough time, like with the Lee Sin, with the Poppy, and the Nautilus. But still, Xflow, they once again have a very beefy front line and a lot of damage coming through from the back end of the Aphelios. So this definitely it could be very similar to game two in the fact that both these teams are going to have a basically a time of like making sure that their execution is going to be really on point, especially for Reign of Kings. Like they have to make sure this Lee Sin pick works, or else he's just going to innately just get outscaled.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see this Akali from Choice Cross as a champion that was banned in games 1 and 2 of this series, as well as, if not all 4 games, a good number of the games last week. Um, so hopefully, or you expect it to be something that Choice Cross is very, very comfortable on, and it is the R5 pick, so he's picking this when he feels comfortable on it as well. So you expect this to be something that Choice Cross can really pop off on. Reign of Kings feeling very constricted in this draft. They're banning away these things that are working against them in the series, and that as a result is kind of messing with their pre-match plan, which they
Yeah.
banned Akali in games 1 and 2. So now they're making the conscious decision to leave it open because they're thinking that these other picks are more threatening. Now the Poppy is really good here. And it was picked early, obviously, but they picked the Ornn and the Akali into Poppy. There's a lot of pressure for Slappy to actually perform with that steadfast presence, block away these dashes.
Yep, exactly. Poppy is going to be a very crucial team fighting champion in this game because there's very crucial dashes to come through in this game, especially for the top side of the map here for Xflow. Definitely coming through on the red side here. I do think that obviously, team fighting is going to be very, very crucial once again for both these teams. But we do have we have some outliers in this game, right? Like you have Akali, sorry, you have Akali, you have Lee Sin, you have these two champions that don't really like the team fight, but they can influence the team fight very, very easily with just a couple pushes of a button. Like if Akali gets on the back line on top of Wit, or if Lee Sin kicks the Aphelios into the team, right? Like you can see some very crazy plays coming out of these two champions, and ultimately it can make or break a team fight very easily. Like if you're Lee Sin and you mess up a kick, or if you're Akali and you don't assassinate the back line, then all of a sudden like things can go awry in a team fight. So the four champions are going to be very stable for both these teams, but the two outliers are definitely the ones to watch as this game goes on.
Yeah, I'm very concerned for Reign of Kings here because again I think they have a team comp that it scales really well. You've got Azir Sivir. See, these are some of the premier champions as far as scaling goes in their respective positions. But this Lee Sin is it's not a I don't think the champion is bad and I don't think Hastega is uncomfortable on it, but it's very difficult regardless of how good you are for Lee Sin to have as much impact as you need. There's the potential is there, but you have to execute so much better than your opponents for it to end up working out for you. Um, I don't know. This is an elimination game for Reign of Kings, and they're pinning their hopes on Hestega Lee Sin. Will he really has to perform?
Yep, absolutely. And like you mentioned, going into elimination match, putting all of your eggs into the Hastega backs. Like he has been doing some pretty solid job in the series, like mostly due to the farming. Now he is really on a ganking jungler. He was on the ganking jungler in game one. He made some plays happen, didn't quite get to work, but he will have to make sure this Lee Sin really hits home, or else he is going to become probably even more useless than the Volibear was in game number one.
Yeah. So real quick, if you look at these two team comps, just like nameplates off, which team would you rather be playing on?
I think I'd rather be playing the red side. It's just for Xflow here because it's so much easier to play. You have the front to back team fighting. It's much more simpler, and you have a lot more like consistent damage to come through. Like yeah, you have the pop off moments with the Lee Sin and the Azir. Like you can really make some crazy things happen. But I think in a very standard game, I definitely give it to the red side here.
All right. We're gonna take a short break as we wait out the spectator delay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be here for game number 3 when we come back. Internet, hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Reign of Kings versus Xflow Pink series. Reign of Kings at elimination point here. They're gonna have to win this one and begin the reverse sweep if they want to win over Xflow Pink. Xflow Pink 2-0 up. And we're actually not gonna get a 5-point here.
Yeah, Prey is in a bit of trouble here. Flash Hook could potentially end up resulting in probably his own flash or even a kill if the chase does come afterwards. And they're waiting for Lee Sin here. They're waiting to see until Lee Sin can actually get here, because if the hook does land and Lee Sin's able to land that Q, even if Aphelios flashes, you're still able to kind of pick up that kill. As actually, no, Slappy is just leaving the situation. So this could be this might not result in a complete kill here with Slappy leaving, but they still want to go for it. There's the sleeper from Leroy. They're going to wait potentially. It's going to be all on Leroy. Can he land the hook to potentially start this game to come through?
Yeah, I don't think they're looking for this pick. I think they're looking for the late invade.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. They're
Yeah,
gonna wait.
here we go. Alright, they're actually unspotted by any of the members of Xflow Pink. No wards dropped in their own jungle, so they are going to steal away this blue buff. Whether Xflow Pink is aware of it, we're not entirely sure. That surely they'll know once they see Leroy and Wit coming down from this side of the map.
Yeah, they definitely could have done a bit of a better job in terms of like maybe doing a better job like hiding the fact that they actually started this. Like, if you walk from that direction, you kind of have to assume like, okay, like they're randomly in this bush. Like, I feel like they could definitely be in our blue side here. Which here comes Jarvan, right? Jarvan is actually pathing straight towards the enemy team's blue buff here. He's gonna basically start that one up right away. It looks like.
Yeah, so at least they know, so it's going to be vertical jungle split here, as Polish Pharaoh will go into the enemy blue buff. If he's able to, it looks like Hastega not opting to take away the enemy wolves, so depending on how Polish Pharaoh pads here, he might come out on top of this one if he's able to get an additional camp out. But ultimately, it looks like it'll be an even trade, just sort of slowing down both junglers as they have to cross the river in order to finish out both sides.
Yeah, he did end up placing that ward, like, basically right on the edge of that wolf camp, so he will be able to see Lee Sin actually enter into the top side of the jungle here. So they will know exactly the number of camps that he's done, basically on the bottom side of the map here. It does look like, Jarvan is potentially walking down here, but with the Azir potentially walking towards his lane, he wants to make sure he kind of plays back at least a little bit here. So does look like, both junglers got basically the exact same thing, just on opposite sides of the map here. So really, no one's really winning or losing this early in the game.
Yeah, so I think that could have been more advantageous to Reign of Kings had Wit and Leroy, like you said, kind of hid the fact that that's where they were coming from.
Yeah.
But oh well, it ultimately is just a even trade. Both junglers kind of slowed down, which might favor Xflow Pink ever so slightly, just because Lee Sin is a champion that falls off quite significantly.
Yeah, they do now see Lee Sin.
Yeah,
on
you've
his
got a gank
wolves.
coming in here from Polish Pharaoh. If he can land the flag and drag onto Renji. Renji looking for the shifting sandtail, flag and drag over the wall after him, flashing away from the land from Trice Cross, and now the Sonic Wave connecting on a Polish Pharaoh. He's taking a lot of damage, he's down to half HP, he's got his flash, he'll flash away. Trice Cross is trying to threaten a little bit back, but they will successfully get the flash out. Jungle Flash traded for mid lane flash, probably ever so slightly advantaged to Xflow.
Yeah,
Now
but
Prey now
himself.
potentially, he's gonna get flash rooted up by the Leroy. There's the ignite.
Oh no!
Prey gonna go down. First one picked up by the Leroy as Trice Cross gets very close to killing off Hastega. Hammy coming in, trying to make this one evened out. They will trade away Hastega's flash, but successful punish by the Leroy, just walking around in a circle to get Prey.
Yeah, Hastega living with less than 10 HP there in the mid lane, so very fortunate there for him. But yeah, we saw Hammy walked up the river to try to protect both his jungle and his mid laner from any further fight there from Hastega, but that let Prey all by himself, and Leroy was like, hey, this guy's, it's a 2v1, let's just kill this guy. And then ultimately the big no-no there in the bot lane, Prey messing up his flash over that really thick wall down there in the bottom side. It is a pretty tough angle to actually flash, so it's pretty hard to be like, definitely should have had that one. So it's still a pretty big misplay there, because not only do you burn your flash, but you also die in the process as well. So It's a good start here for the Reign of Kings. Going, you're already down. You're already down 2-0 in the series.
Yeah, and yes, it is. You're right. It is completely very difficult flash to make. But the question is, your support just went up the river. Why are you playing up like that as Aphelios in the first place, right? Their support is Nautilus, the champion that is notorious for punishing you when you walk up like that. And your Aphelios, an 80 carry with no dashes, no spell shield, nothing. You end up just dying for what is a completely avoidable mistake, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very big mistake there by Prey because the second Hammy leaves, like he has to pay respect to the support that he could theoretically be there. So, yeah, you're exactly right. Definitely, mistake is due or mistake is due, right? Like you can't just sit there and be like, oh, yeah, he could have lived the situation if he had flashed a little bit better, but. You're definitely right. Putting us in that position definitely isn't that great for him. But we are back to live here, and Lee Sin is looking for a potential bot lane play down here because he knows Aphelios does not have flash. This can be the repercussions if you're not careful. Leroy is walking very posturally aggressive. So they do a good job of backing off here as Mistako's gonna show on this wave. So now they know for sure where this Lee Sin is, and they'll be able to act accordingly.
Yeah, it looks like the dragon is going to be the focus. Renji already making his way down the river, ready to start that one away. Or at least get Pryo very close, actually, to getting that Scuttle Crab as Histega use the smite. Here's the flag and drag, doesn't quite get the knockup, but they will root up the Leroy with the Prey. Auto attack here, missing the trench line, actually will just fall down. Tries Cross picking up a very crucial kill over to the Assassin. Histega gonna land the Sonic Wave to follow up onto him. Tries Cross gonna go back in onto him, he's gonna safeguard out onto Renji. Tries Cross looking for a little bit, but they lost their support for basically nothing, and that means that Pryo and the Dragon over to Xflow Pink.
Yeah, Pryo is going to go over to the big, especially because Leroy is still off the map as Hammy. He does polymorphly Sin. He is going to get even lower and lower.
Yeah,
Here goes
Trice Cross actually going to go in there. Sight guard over. Renji, nice interrupt on the Emperor's Divide onto Trice Cross. Will keep his jungler alive, but all that was doing was keeping the Lee Sin out. No potential steal coming out from him, and Polish Pharaoh should pick up this Mountain Drake over to the side of Xflow Pink.
They are still in the area, though, and Leroy is back on the map, and I think they are going for it if direct-to-camera could get us down there.
Yeah, they actually canceled that one out there. Histega is on it, and he's actually going to be able to secure it. Enough posture from the Leroy and Wit with their Pryo in the bottom lane, and Prey not really moving means that it will go over the way of Reign of Kings. So really interesting there that they are able to win out on that one, but overall good for them if they want to keep their playoffs hopes alive.
Yeah, especially because, we saw the initial attempt there from Trice Cross to try to get on top of Histega to really punish him from being out and punished, but the Azir wall able to come through, and the respawn timer from Leroy was able to make it back in time to where they felt confident enough that they could look for a 4 versus 4 out on the map. So definitely a really solid job there just to kind of use brute force to really walk in the area to pick up that dragon, because so far in this series, the team that has picked up that first dragon has won each and every game so far. So if you're going based off of that statistic alone, then Reign of Kings is definitely looking very a bright spot in this game.
Yeah, the Leroy posturing very aggressively, just using that brush to zone out Prey and Hammy. Yeah, and I think Akali is very ult reliant compared to a lot of mid laners. A lot of power is in the ultimate, and you can just solo out 80 carries in the middle of their teams when it's up, but when it's down, you don't have near as much damage and probably not enough to pick anybody off. So once that ultimate was expended by Trice Cross, they lose a lot of power to contest that dragon. And yeah, like you said, with the respawning Leroy coming in, they did get Pryo here. Now, their jungler's fighting over the Rift Herald as Slappy gonna kick out Yaone as the Call of the Fort God is issued. Meanwhile, Dredgeline in the bottom lane, into the Death Charge. Leroy just a ton of damage going in onto Prey. They're gonna root up Hammy, and Prey turning around with a little bit of damage on his own. Meanwhile, Slappy gonna get a wall charge on the Polish Pharaoh as he's caught out by 3 members of Reign of Kings. They get a 1-for-0 down there.
Yeah, it looks like the action's not going to quite stop here yet because Histega does end up picking up the Rift Herald, but the potential dive is a possibility.
Oh yeah, Dredgeline going to connect. The Wild Growth is not available just yet. Hammy going very low, will survive, and they will make it out of there without anyone going down, but Hammy going very, very low.
Yeah, honestly, very surprised he did not end up blowing Flash there. Drops as low as HP as he did there, so... And a nice job here by Reign of Kings' bot lane, recognizing Lulu still only level 5 here in this matchup. So not quite having the access to that wild growth up and available, as we are seeing there's some resets coming through on the map for both teams here, as a 1.5 thousand gold lead being built up here by Reign of Kings. This is the first game of the series. They actually have some control in the mid game, in the early game. It's honestly off the back end of Hastega. He's done a really solid job on this Lee Sin, actually being able to make sure he can get his team a big enough lead to where, yeah, Lee Sin, he's going to fall off as the game goes on, but still, as if this champion's ahead, he can still do a lot of damage in these skirmish type settings.
Yeah, and you feel really good knowing that you have a gold lead when you have something like Sivir Azir as your carry duo. Those champions scale incredibly well, will be outputting a ton of damage, and there's not, Xflow Pink don't have the things like the Seraphine they did in game 1 that'll just shrug up a lot of it. So looking very good for Reign of Kings going into the 11-minute mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hastega, once again, looking down here on the bottom side of the map, Leroy does obviously have that depth charge, so very easy CC layering can come down.
He's just ready to drop the Herald here, I think.
Yep.
You do have a Polish Pharaoh waiting in the wings, ready to come in onto heal advised dive.
Ooh,
Hastega might be the target. Their Herald will get the charge off, and that'll be that. Tricecross actually going to go aggressive. Renji going to knock him into the tower with the Emperor's Divide. Tricecross just going to use the second bit of that ultimate to back out to safety.
Yeah, lots of things happening there. We saw the bot lane Herald play, and Polish almost had his smite up and available, and I was curious to see if he was going to actually flag a drag over the wall to potentially look for that kind of play, as Polish definitely staying around here trying to pick up this crab, but still in a 1v3 situation, decides to back off here, as there is a ward being cleared here by Hammy, but he could get wrapped around here by Leroy if he's not careful about it.
Yeah, here we go, flash dredge line, forcing the flash out of Hammy. Really nice reaction from Hammy to flash away from that one, actually.
Yeah, but Jarvan is in the area too, so if they go a little bit further, they could lose for a play, but they decide to back it off because they know Jarvan could end up making that kind of play, as Slappy once again just constantly top battling this Ornn up here in the top lane. It's gonna be just a bit of a beef fest up there, really. Neither one of these guys can really kill the other one, but honestly, Poppy is starting to win out on some of these trades to come through, as the Ornn is gonna end up TPing back to the top lane. So I guess they feel like they don't want to contest for the second dragon of the game here.
I'm really curious as to why that TP came through. It's not like Yane was particularly low, and as Ornn you can build items in lane. So yeah, losing that TP, so no potential contest here coming out from Xflow Pink. There's a little question mark for me on that one.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree a little bit too, just because, especially the type of champion that Ornn is, right? Ornn is that one little outlier that can build items in lane, and he was getting chunked out a little bit by the Poppy there, but I don't think he needed to just immediately TP right back up into the top lane, because he's only gonna probably miss out on maybe a wave here. But bot lane is the blue buff is being contested here by Reign of Kings, able to pick that one up. It does go to the Lee Sin. Probably would have liked it to go to Renji. But instead it does go over the way because they wanted to secure that one for Hastega. Hastega's actually up 17 CS onto Polish Pharaoh, and definitely doing a really good job on this Lee Sin, constantly looking for pressure because he realized that his champion obviously is going to get a little bit outpaced or outdone in some of these team fights by the Jarvan pick if he's not careful about it. As Leroy, he could be in some danger here.
Leroy gonna get rooted up and whimsied up. Leroy taking a lot of damage. He's ignited already, and there's the ultimate coming out. The Moonlight Vigil and the Glitter Lance is what picks it up. Hammy getting a kill in favor of Xflow Pink.
Yeah, and that's honestly just a really well done play. They know that they face checking into that bush. Yeah, he already used his hook as well, so no real way to kind of fight back there in the bottom side of the map, but Hastega is back to the bottom side once again, potentially looking for another play down here, but it does look like Frey and Hammy are kind of backing off. They don't necessarily want to do anything too crazy as the resets do come through for Wits and Hastega.
Yep. Slappy faring a lot better in this game compared to games 1 and 2, but Polish Pharaoh will finally make his presence known. His Call of Forge got nicely sidestepped away by Slappy, and he'll be able to walk out of that one. First gank onto Slappy will not be successful here.
Yep, and it's honestly it's the nature of Poppy, right? Poppy has the natural built-in movement speed with a steadfast presence, and even if the Ornn, like I say, when he casts his ultimate, Poppy can actually just deny that ability to come through. As you know, Leroy, he's gonna have his own attempt, and Hastega's behind him as well.
Yeah, or there is a flash available, but Yaone will have the Searing Charge interrupted, and he'll get grounded, rooted into the wall, and it will be Hastega picking up another one, 2-0 for Lee Sin.
Yep, another crucial kill going on to the most important member there on the Lee Sin. He definitely needs to kind of keep up the pace in this game. So very well done there to actually secure that kill there onto Yone. And now it's a 2.5 thousand gold here at the 15-minute marker. And still, Reign of Kings. Once again, this game just complete control in this game. Yeah, Prey is starting to get a little bit of advantage here on the bot half of the map because this Wit is completely alone. But, you know, Leroy continuously trying to make plays on the map. He looked for a potential Hex Flash there play onto the Trice-Cross, but Trice-Cross able to back off, make sure he knows that he's kind of alone here in this mid lane.
Yeah, Yaone actually in that top lane, he had Flash, and he did end up using it, but the issue is he used Searing Charge first, got knocked up by Poppy, and as a result, grounded himself. So he couldn't Flash away until after the Steadfast Presence went down, and by then, he just gets Dredge Line pulled back in, Sonic Wave, die. If you were gonna burn Flash, just do it immediately so that, you know, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's, you know, obviously, you know, hindsight is 20/20 for him because he probably feels the same way about it too. But fortunately for him, it was a bit of a misplay by him in order to end up dying in that situation, like you mentioned. And once again, the Richard has been killed, and he is all the way pushed up in this lane. So he is now recognizing that he does have to back off here. And you know, Leroy has been living in the top half of the jungle here for about a minute's time frame or so, and he's potentially looking for a play. He wants to get on top of Trice-Cross, but Trice-Cross is doing a nice job of staying on the right half side of the lane, to where, yeah, even if they go for a play, it's going to be really hard to actually get on top of Sakali. And Jarvan, question mark pings the Lee Sin and then Nautilus say,
Yeah,
hey,
I think he dropped the standard on their heads and saw them all in the brush there.
Probably, yeah. So, and they do end up backing away there after they take, actually, still fighting over the chickens there. The chickens do go to the way of Hastega. So nice little pick up there. But Dragon is spawning up in a minute's time. And last Dragon, it was a basically no contest here for the side of Xflow. But Mythics have now been purchased for everyone but the support. So curious to see if now is the time to contest or if they're just going to wait for Soul Point. Personally, if you are going to contest, like I feel like you have to potentially look for a play, or, you know, or it's going to be some type of like maybe like an Ornn ulti, like a Jarvan ultimate, right? But so far, everyone has flashes up and available. I do think we had a slight pause here, which is why we're waiting. Like the client has to somewhat catch back up. So we will obviously get back to live shortly. But yeah, it was Dragon spawning in about 27 seconds time. Xflow do have a couple of wards pretty deeply placed already, and TP is almost up for Yone in this top lane. Slappy also has his TP almost coming up on cooldown as well, so all 10 members can be here for this Dragon fight, and it does look like Xflow is garnering for position over this potential Dragon fight.
Yeah, this is potentially very dangerous. Yane is going to get a recall off so that there's no chance that he gets interrupted by Slappy's Poppy on this teleport, because I think he knows that he's gonna have to be here. He's already starting his teleport into this dragon fight.
If he wanted to get here early because he knows that, like, obviously he is the main frontline for his team.
Found his way. He's gonna look at Hastega, but Hastega actually just goes onto him. Dredge Line is gonna be used onto him. He'll go golden with the stopwatch. Yane gonna come in with the Call of the Forge Gun. Nice Slappy flashes for the steadfast presence, but now Trice-Cross is gonna try and get out of there. In the back line goes Polish Pharaoh, and he gets immediately kicked out and taken down. Divide shuffles in 3 members of Xflow Pig. Trice-Cross is on the run, gets flashed, Dredge Line after the charge, and finally taken down. A double kill for Hastega, as it's just Xflow getting wiped 5-0 in favor of Reign of Kings.
Yeah, and it's a huge fight there for Reign of Kings. A lot of very small things happened in this fight to really pay attention to. Obviously, it started with the initial play there from Trice-Cross to get on top of Hastega, but he ends up getting chunked about half HP, having to burn stasis very, very early. And then they use the Yone, they use the Call of the Forge God, but gets immediately interrupted by the steadfast presence there from the Poppy, so it was able to be a pretty successful fight. But also, Prey had the worst possible gun combinations for a dragon fight. He had Calibrum and he had Gravitum. If he has legit any other combination, that fight probably goes a little bit better there. for Xflow, but unfortunately for them, they just weren't quite able to do the damage. And then the real kicker was the Emperor's Divide there from Renji, landing a 4-man ultimate there to really do a lot of damage and separate the team fight crucially there for Reign of Kings. And now they are in really good control of this game.
Yeah, wow. Now they're just a little under 7,000 gold ahead. A little, yeah. And they're at Soul Point with really strong scaling AD in mid. This is for sure Reign of Kings' game to lose. This is potentially the start of the reverse sweep if they can keep it up like this.
Yeah, and honestly, like, like you mentioned, right? Like, they have the front-to-back team fighting with the Puppy, the Azir, and the Sip, but they have a lot of damage. And, once again, very similarly to how Game 1 and Game 2 went for Xflow, a very early Dragon Soul fight is going to be happening around the 24-minute marker here for both these teams. And now that you're up about 6,000, 7,000 gold, you're really putting yourself in a position that you can really win out on these team fights. And Xflow, you're going to have to group up once again for this dragon fight in about 3 minutes time. And now they don't necessarily really want to, and you're against an Infernal Soul as well. You can't just really give that one up to the enemy team.
And this is a little bit outside of like what is strictly in game, because Hammy actually just gonna get caught here. He's gonna get dredgelined in, Wild Growth used, and Hestega now potentially caught out. He's gonna use the Sonic Wave, but he'll get shut down. That Trice Cross crucially picking up that shutdown gold. The tower will go down.
Oh, Renji.
And the dredgeline gonna connect, and now it goes in. Emperor's Divide is used. Renji gonna get caught. And now it's a potential win for Xflow Pink. Slappy getting trained. Double knockup by Yane with a Siri charge. Leroy going very low. Slappy is in there, just getting shredded. Here comes Wit, turning around, trying to put down some auto attack damage, but can only hit minions from safety. It's gonna be a few quick kills in favor of Xflow Pink. Shutdowns going over to crucial members of Xflow.
Yeah, once again, Reign of Kings just making a pretty crucial mistake there. They tried to go for the fight, but Hestega basically gets bursted out the second the fight starts there, giving away a 700 gold shutdown over to the Akali. And then the rest of the members try to save Hestega, but we saw Renji go for the ultimate, only landed onto one of the members there for Xflow, and ultimately ended up costing him his own life as well. That's one of the issues of playing Azir in some of these games, right? Because sometimes you feel like you kind of have to go for the hero play. Instead, he could have just stood over the wall, just dealt damage with his sand soldiers, and been perfectly fine with the situation. But ultimately, it does mean a lot of kills go the way back towards Xflow. And yeah, the game is still very much in Reign of Kings' hands. It's still a 5,500 gold lead here, but still, it's a nice little momentum boost. And you're also sitting at a 3-1-1 Akali with 2 items.
Yeah. Reign of Kings, it's a little bit of a hiccup. It's okay. Just don't do that. Just don't do that too many more times, and you'll be all right. I still think Reign of Kings are feeling very comfortable in this game. They're thinking, okay, we took a bad fight. It's okay. We still have the gold lead. We're still okay. Just play a little bit more methodically next time. Hestega sitting on 2 items. Renji sitting on 2 items, Slappy also, basically everybody is sitting very comfortably item-wise on the side of Reign of Kings. Potentially looking for Polish Pharaoh here, as Slappy is coming in to flank up the river. It is Dragon Soul Point coming in about 50 seconds here.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the decision is going to be here for Xflow. Like, yeah, you could fight for this thing, but if you fight for it and you lose, obviously you're going to lose the Dragon Soul and the
Trice
Baron.
actually potentially getting caught here by Slappy. He's grounded up. He's going to blast going out to safety. He'll be all right. Nice little interrupt there.
Yeah, Prey, luckily for Prey, he does have Calibrum and Infernum. He probably wants to get rid of Calibrum, but he wants to make sure he has that option for the Infernum gun. It is the best gun for these type of AoE type fights, so definitely look for Prey to really switch out of this Calibrum gun. Basically,
a lot of damage going in onto Hammy, and Slappy wants it. He's going forward, going to jump in onto Hammy, get a little bit of damage with that Buckler coming in. Now, Polish Pharaoh looking for an angle with the flag and drag, but you do have to contend with the Steadfast Presence coming up off cooldown here fairly soon from Slappy. He's looking for it. He'll get zoned out by Sand Soldiers, and the Leroy and Hestega fighting out on the other side. Dredgeline going to connect onto Trice Cross. He'll go invisible into the Twilight Shroud. The Call of the Forge God onto 2. Leroy is going to be the target. Death Charge onto Trice Cross. He'll get golden. Polish Pharaoh around the side. side looking for the flag and drag. Another Dredgeline gonna connect on the Trice Cross. He's ulting out to safety. Right,
Oh, I think
using Night Kick Flash.
Oh my, what?
And into Slappy right there, ready to knock him into the wall. Finished up by Wit. Leroy looking for Yaone. Will Flash just to root him up. He'll steering charge right into the waiting arms of Slappy once again. Another 3 kills go the way of Reign of Kings.
Well, that kick from Hastega, though, was actually pitch perfect there. Kicked him right into the Lulu. The impact was able to actually just outright kill Hammy in that fight. And now this is going to end up being the Dragon Soul, the Infernal Soul, over to Reign of Kings, and most likely also a transition also over towards the Baron. Yes, Polish is still alive. It's actually going to be a reset here instead for Reign of Kings. But yeah, fight back and forth. Both teams trying to posture for position, but when you're playing over position against an Azir that is this strong in the game, it is very, very hard to do so because he has so much presence. He has so much power in these team fights. And and Trice Cross and Yone, they tried to really insert themselves in the fight, but unfortunately for them, it was not quite enough. And really, the kick is the one that really sealed up the fight there in that game. So, you know, well done there, but obviously the game is not quite over yet. Yes, you are in control, and you got to make sure, obviously, like, you know, you can't mess this game up, right? Because you're already down 2-0. So this game needs to be secured, and then you need to obviously move on to game 4.
Yeah, really well played by Hastega. Obviously, that kick was absolutely insane. A lot of credit, though, has to be given to the Leroy. Just hard chain CCing Trice Cross to start off the fight with a potential pick. Trice Cross goes invisible, goes golden, and immediately just gets CC'd out of those safety tools that Akali has, again, by the Leroy, and just made that fight very comfy for Wit, Hastega, and Renji to play off of.
Yeah, and they're still posturing for position if it's Hastega.
Sonic Wave gonna connect on a Trice Cross. He'll try and get out to safety here as they're just bullying their way in to the top side jungle.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much, you know, Xflow can really do about this position, right? Because they're still down like 8,000 gold as Leroy is basically looking for a play, but
they're
instead,
looking for Renji here. Renji does use the Emperor's Divide with the flag and drag. He's taken down! Trice Cross goes on a killing spree, but Wit is getting to bring Otto. A great kick once again from Hastega. Just spells doom for 2 more members of Xflow. There's the big Moonlight Vigil. It means nothing as the rest of Xflow just collapse. Call the Forge God is issued, no damage available. Hammy just gets taken down. A double kill over to Hastega as they'll slowly but surely 4v1, a triple kill to the Lee Sin.
Yeah, and this could honestly be game 20 seconds of the next respawn timer here for Xflow. If they really, really wanted it to, they could actually end this game straight away. They're going to try to do it. They have the damage. Only Azir is dead here, and he has TP when he spawns back up if they really want to look for this play. Respawn timers, obviously Polish is back alive. Trice Cross in 3 seconds. They're looking for it.
Yeah, denied by Slappy with the steadfast presence. They're just gonna end Auto the Nexus down. We finally got some life out of Reign of Kings. The series continues 2-1 Xflow pink, but Reign of Kings with the momentum.
Yeah, and a nice little pickup there on this game, right? Because we talked about this Lee Sin pick. It needs to obviously get things done in the early game. It really has to make plays work. And a couple of very crucial kicks there were definitely very, very influential in how this game ended up playing out. So definitely, I honestly really liked the game out of Hastega. Like he still made things done, and he was on a much more active playmaker than just the volleyball like he had in game 1. But obviously, now that you're down 2-1, you now give side selection back over to Xflow. And I would imagine Xflow would go back to the blue side. And ultimately, for how this series has gone, you have 4 bans for the first 3 bans to go for. You have the Yumi ban, you have Seraphine, Zillion, and then you also have Wukong. One of those champions is going to be left open. And I'm curious to see which one it's going to be and if Xflow end up be wanting that option.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Lee Sin obviously was the what do you call it? The big question mark. Is this champion gonna work out for Reign of Kings? Definitely came up big in a lot of those fights, and it looked like Hastega was feeling very comfortable. And all of that it's not strictly in game, but a lot of that mental game, you're feeling good on how you played that game. Slappy had some really great interrupts with the steadfast presence. Renji obviously had a huge Emperor's Divide, and of course Lee Sin for Hestega was some big kicks. They might not get those champions again, but they're definitely feeling good going into game number 4. We're gonna take a short break as we set up for that game number 4. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in just a few. Internet, hello and welcome back. We are finally getting some life out of Reign of Kings in game number 3, now entering into game number 4. Reign of Kings still on a knife's edge. They've still got to win the next 2 games in a row. Otherwise, they are eliminated by Xflow Pink out of the Classic Championship Series. Xflow Pink looking really good in the first 2 games, stuttering a little bit in that game number 3.
Yeah, and I do think that obviously, the Elise and Pink did cause a little bit of trouble here for Xflow Pink. But, like we just talked about here, Xflow Pink has chosen to go back on the blue side. And, there's been a couple champions that have been permanently banned here by ROK. Champions that have changed throughout the series, but it does seem that, ROK is kind of stuck on 4 champions that they kind of want to get rid of. But unfortunately for them, they can only get rid of 3 of them in this phase. So I'm curious to see which one is going to be left open, and will Xflow end up picking it up? Obviously, there's been the Yumi, there's been the Seraphine, the Cillian, the Wukong, and so far Yumi's obviously banned here on the table. There goes the Zillion. And which one are you going to ban? Are you going to ban the Seraphine, or are you going to end up banning the Wukong instead?
Yeah, they actually are gonna ban the Wukong away, and as tough as it is to contend with top or with B1 Seraphine, it seems like something that I think Reign of Kings kind of feel like they're gonna do. The Wukong what is a very comfortable champion for Polish Pharaoh, and to take him off that, they think maybe they can get more bang for their buck out of that rather than banning out the Seraphine. Um, whether they're correct or whether this they'll be able to overcome regardless, yet to be seen. Sivir Nautilus is going to be the lock-in for the bottom lane of Reign of Kings. They just played that, and they're going to see if they can punish the bottom lane the same way they did in game number 3.
Yeah, and honestly, like I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a Cinna Ornn lock in here for Xflow, right? Like they're going
And there it
right
is.
back. Yeah, they're going right back to game one's composition because ROK, like I mean, even like once again, like they kind of like they drafted the Siffer, they drafted the Nautilus, like Cinna Seraphine should be able to do okay in that bottom side of the lane. And once again, Hestega, he's failed himself here on this Lee Sin pick. And we talked about momentum. We talked about like the feeling good when you play a champion, right? Like, yeah, like, this champion, like, I feel like it's one of those champions where, like, it's still very hit or miss. Like, you can make the champion look really, really good, like he did last game, but you can also make the champion look like it's completely useless. And it happens to basically anyone across the world when you play this type of champion. You have to make sure you're really on point with this champion. So in last game, he certainly was, but he is once again into the death ball composition, obviously without the Wukong because it is banned in this game. So I'm curious to see like what that jungle option is going to be here for Xflow. But yeah, Hastego once again going right back to the lead sim.
Yeah, Xflow looking to ban away the Azir. They just won with it. I'm not surprised. Plus, the jungle pick is already locked in. They think they're going to get value out of these mid lane bans, and they will actually take um they will actually put Renji onto something new. I think he's only played Victor Azir this series so far, so
Yep.
he's gonna have to show something different here. Lilia actually gonna be the mouse over for Reign of Kings here. That would be Lilia top lane if it is locked in. Presumably just something to try and lane dom or to dominate lane against the Ornn.
Yeah, Lilia actually bullies the crap out of Ornn, actually. Like, it's a very solid lane because you can just dance around the Ornn because Ornn is a very slow moving champion and Lilia is incredibly fast. So I'm curious to see kind of how that one does end up going. That's a Diana lock-in. And typically Diana comes, Yasuo is to follow as well for the mid-jungle duo pairing. And I'm curious to see what this was going to be. Renekton is the lock-in for the mid lane, and it's going to be to counter the Yasuo. But I gotta say, I don't want to say ROK is getting baited, but I kind of want to say it. I kind of want to say they're kind of getting baited by locking this champion in.
Wow, really? Okay. I I mean, I'm not normally on camera when I cast. I happen to be right now. So if you're watching on stream, you saw me just like triple take whenever I saw the Yasuo locked in, and then quadruple take whenever I saw the Renekton locked in as a counter. Um, I I don't know. I think Renekton is a lot better than some points he used to be, but I think the champion is very much like Lee Sin, very hit or miss. If you're not ahead on it, it feels very useless. It's kind of just a big meatball that stands there, and you're like, you're kind of tanky, sort of, not as tanky as Ornn. You kind of do damage, sort of, ish, sometimes if you're ahead, maybe. Um, we did see in LCS playoffs this champion can just solo out 80 carries if he happens to randomly get on top of them, and um you can just save games somehow. Uh it's gonna be hard to do so when you're up against Seraphine and Senna. These are very big shields. And I guess Renekton does have like the shield break mechanic
Yep.
on the empowered W, so
Yep.
I guess there's that going for him, and theoretically should be good in lane into Yasuo as well. So maybe there's a lot more merit to this Renekton pick than I'm initially thinking, but it just makes me very hesitant to think that, to like this comp.
Yeah, so the thing with Renekton, obviously, it curb stomps Yasuo in lane. Like, there's nothing Yasuo can do to this champion, like, at all, really, because, like, Yasuo has such limited range, and Renekton, like, Call the Meek, very funny enough, one of his abilities names, just straight up destroys basically any melee champion that can really get close to him. So what they're doing is they're really just banking off the fact that Lilia, Renekton, like Lee Sin, like, these champions can just get very far ahead of their individual like counterparts and just slowly start taking over the game with these champions that they've locked in for themselves. Because you're right, if it comes to a 5v5, like once again, very beefy meatball, like grouping up for objectives, and it's an even game, like Xflow's composition should end up winning this game pretty easily. But they do have, like, once again, the kind of these couple of outliers, like with the Lee Sin, the Renekton, like these champions, like if they can get ahead and just start rolling over their laning opponent, then you can really start winning out on some of these trades.
Fair. And again, I'm just looking for these silver linings in Reign of Kings comp, which ultimately I'm not. I personally would not want to play, but I could see a lot of merits. Lily and Renekton really good into high melee counts. You've got Ornn, Diana, Yasuo. Those are three melee champions on the top side of the map. Uh, it does give Reign of Kings some skirmish power on that top side, and if they're ahead, they can actually still win. If Renekton is just like using that Dominus, like let the dandruff just fly around and kill people, does more damage now ever since he got buffed. Lilia's really good at kiting out melee champions. Uh, so they're hopefully it'll work out for them. You just gotta be concerned again. Obviously, Seraphine Senna, a lot of shields, some healing coming in. Uh, that was a combo that just Reign of Kings could not contend with in game number one.
Yeah, and and also another thing for Xflow here is they have a lot of AOE damage. Like every single person on Xflow's team has a really good forms of AOE damage to come through, especially damage that you can very easily layer on top of that because you have the Diana pull in together the Ornn ulti over the top with the Yasuo, with the Seraphine, the Senna. Like there's a huge wombo combo potential to come through here for Xflow. So if Reign of Kings isn't careful about it, they can definitely start getting wiped in some of these team fights to come. But with the overall laning advantages here that Reign of Kings have drafted for themselves, they're definitely going to have to really push the limits of their champions to really kind of push for a potential game five.
Yeah, and I think it was really intelligent of Xflow. They know they're on blue side. They know that they will first pick Seraphine if it's open, so they can drop that Seraphine ban that they've been banning on red side and ban away the Poppy. Poppy would again negate the Ornn ultimate potentially with the steadfast presence. We saw it happen last game, and then of course Diana Yasuo also somewhat dependent on those initial dashes to get into the team fight and get their
Yep.
combo off. So I really like that adaptation that they ban the Poppy. Make sure that that at least will not be the tool that they use to negate them. Well, I still think that Xflow have come out ahead in this draft just because it's so easy to execute. It's
Yeah.
Seraphine Senna, shields. You have your big wombo combo with Yasuo. Uh, you just walk at them and you win, right? Um, but it does. It's basically can Reign of Kings execute their like pseudo counter team comp well enough to win this one out?
Yep. And that's going to be the case here for this game, obviously, And once again, their backs are still up against the wall. They still have to end up picking up a victory in this game, so we'll have to wait and see. Like, are they able to execute on the winning lanes with Renekton, with the Lilia, and even like if Lee Sin is able to get active on the map early, right? Like, if these things are able to be accomplished, then Reign of Kings can win this game. But once again, as same thing as game one, they have the much better front to back, like kind of death ball composition. So we will see.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break as we wait out the spectator delay. Join us in just a little bit to see if Xflow Pink are going to take this one in 4 or if Reign of Kings are going to push us to game 5. Thanks for watching, everyone. Internet, hello and welcome back. We are here for game number 4 between Reign of Kings and Xflow Pink. Xflow Pink, having lost game 3, lost a little bit of momentum, but they got to choose side selection and they opted for the blue side. Flash strike line coming up from the Leroy, but a wind wall at level 1. Nicely taken from Triscross, means he gets to conserve all of his summoners.
Yeah, and I do like the attempt here from Leroy, but Trishcross does end up having to use his wind wall, which is actually, pretty rough for his overall lane, right? Because it's not really going to help him against this Renekton lane because he's just going to get bullied as it goes on. Because Leroy, he is going to walk through here. The ward does get placed here on the Raptor camps. They are going to have knowledge of potentially, Diana's pathing and where she starts and where she's finishing here. Lee Sin also looks like he's going to be potentially starting on the bottom side of the map as well. So a bit of a opposite side starting here for both these teams. And I'm curious to see, if that little time investment there into the mid lane is actually going to cause some havoc here for this mid lane matchup. Because we talked about, Renekton should be able to handle the Yasuo very early on, and you also have to have the wind wall level 1. So you don't really have an ability until level 2 in this matchup.
Yeah, that's really rough, isn't it? Like, you're already up against Renekton, who should just kind of dumpster you in lane, and now you have Windwall level 1. I could just see this going very, very badly for Triscross, but it'll potentially be okay if he can just sort of weather the storm and get to that point where they just, do what you said, death ball it up.
Yeah, and it's definitely what they're going to look to do here. It's very similar to kind of how they had Game 1's competition, right? Like, they don't really have to do much of anything for the first maybe 15 to 20 minutes of this game, as long as they're still relatively even, or as long as they're still relatively, still in a good position, they should be in the fine. But this game is a little bit different. It's like not really both teams are really looking to scale. It's like, for Reign of Kings here, they're really looking to kind of push their overall laning advantages that they kind of drafted for themselves with this Lilia, with this Renekton, and basically dominate the individual solo lanes and have the Lee Sin be able to come up and potentially make some plays also happen on the map. Because Renekton, not the best team fighting champion. Lilia, of course, you can land a nice sleep to have a lot of impact in some fights. But overall, it's it can still be pretty messy if you're not careful.
Yeah, and you do have the old classic Renekton Lee Sin. You stun him with the Ruthless Predator, it's point and click, can't miss it, and then you can't miss the Sonic Wave immediately afterwards. That really does just kind of paint a big target on Triscross's back. It's very, good presence of mind for him to level that wind wall early, so he does get to keep that flash because he's probably gonna need it here fairly soon.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Obviously, for how this game ends up going, right? Lee Sin is on the top half of the map here. Diana is on the bottom half of the map. So Yone does have his wave pushing out against him here. So it is a bit of a difficult situation for him to be in. He is actually going to walk in.
Yeah, face check right into Hastega, gonna get slowed up, and the Sonic Wave is gonna connect, but not gonna be too much as Hastega, only level 3, has yet to have cleared his Krug, so won't be going for too much there.
Yeah, but still, it's a nice little damage chunk there onto the Ornn, and he's already struggling in this matchup a little bit here. His hook does miss onto Hammy, so trade is going to end up going back onto Prey here a little bit here. But nice job there, surviving the initial hook. Renekton looks like he's doing the bottom Scuttle Crab here a little bit as well. So the Scuttle Crab is going to go 2-0 here for Reign of Kings on the bottom side of the map, and Diana is on the top half of the map, and there's some action happening.
Yeah, Yone actually very low. Slappy backing off at the appropriate time will not get knocked up by the Searing Charge into Polish Pharaoh. Now Hastega's here, about half HP, will smite away something. Sonic Wave looking for Yone. Polish Pharaoh! Beautiful play! Will be first blood over to Slappy. Polish Pharaoh will get one back onto Hastega with a flash. Now Slappy just ready to kite it out with that with the movement speed coming out, but nothing more. First blood going over to Slappy.
Yeah, huge resonating strike there from the Lee Sin there, able to land the initial Sonic Wave there, able to pick up the back end play there. Onto the Ornn there. I don't think they would have actually been able to pick up the kill if that Q does not land there from the Lee Sin. So once again, this guy, he's just kind of feeling himself on this pick. You can tell that he is really kind of into this game. He feels like this champion is completely the onus is on him to make plays happen once again in game number 4 here. And he's right back at it again, trying to pick up kills for his lanes. And, really, like, obviously, Renekton is building a CS lead in the mid lane here. Lilia as well has a slight CS lead, but still, you want to continue to see plays just happen on the map.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if that was really, really good by Hastega to weave that Sonic Wave in there, or just like not kind of a troll by Polish Pharaoh to not block that as Leroy coming around from the side, flashing the dredge line. Are they going to be able to chain in Hastega Sonic Wave? They don't need it. They just take out Prey. Prey having already used the flash on that first engage earlier.
Yep, nice pickup there. Once again, like we talked about just a second ago, continuously looking to make plays. You don't want to slow down. You want to keep up the pace over and over again. And this dragon is going to be a nice second little start here as well, because you're still sitting in a very comfortable position. Yes, Resident Strike does end up landing there, but obviously probably going to most likely just look to secure this dragon. Polish Pharaoh is in the area though.
He doesn't get it. Hastega secures the dragon. The exhaust goes down, and they just immediately annihilate Polish Pharaoh. Trice coming in, looking for a knockup. He doesn't have Diana ultimate available for him, so he'll just have to get a knockup himself. Can they get it? We'll just knock up a Scuttlecraft. There's the root coming in under the Leroy. The dredge line will go wide. Moving forward, Trice ready to go in. There's the Summoner exhaust being used. There's a little bit of damage from the Brewing Blade, but in goes Trice, flashes in. Whip flashes over the wall. They'll get away. Missing away on that knockup, but Leroy going very low will go down to an auto attack from Hammy.
Yep, back and forth skirmish there. And honestly, like, if that fight's a little bit later in the game and level 6s are up and available, I'm sure Xflow would have a much different outcome there, because we had multiple people. Like, that was a 4-man Diana ultimate into a 4-man Seraphine if they had the abilities to cast them, but unfortunately, they weren't quite ready yet. So the fight does actually go a bit of a 1-for-1 there, but the dragon ultimately was picked up there by Hastega. Smite victory over to him in this very crucial matchup here in game number 4, as we does look like we're seeing a bit of a roam play here happening. Leroy is on the top half of the map with Hastega, potentially trying to make a play here onto Yone, but he does walk over a control ward.
Yeah, Polish Pharaoh is in the area, and he does have level 6 this time. Here's the Call of the Forge God being issued onto Slappy. Is going to not get dodged away from that one. He's going to get pulled back in and taken down. Slappy flashes just to die immediately afterwards.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier this series, right? If you're just gonna flash it early. You don't want to flash as a last resort, because ultimately the worst possible situation that can happen is you flash and you also die in the process. Like, that just cannot happen here, especially when you're playing a very much winning lane here. Right now, obviously, it's right back to even here up in this top lane.
Yeah, It's just kind of greedy, He tries to save his flash by dodging with the W, doesn't get it, and then ends up flashing and dying anyway. It's what happens, like, several times so far this series, where you try and use your mobility spell to dodge, and then you fail, and then you flash and then die anyway. When if you just flashed immediately, it'd be okay. Dredgeline gonna connect on the Polish Pharaoh, but there's not gonna be any follow-up. A little bit of vision lost there in the brush.
Yeah, he also was by himself, so like maybe Lee Sin could have caught up to him eventually, but it's still definitely a bit risky there, that type of play, because obviously Yasuo's right around the corner. So, but ultimately nothing really comes of that play really, and still this mid lane matchup is still obviously it is very Renji favored, but still nothing really has come of this matchup really. Not sure if Renji's if he is punishing this Yasuo as much as he probably should be, but ultimately it is still going in the favor here of Renji. But nice little trade here by Tricecross.
Yeah, nice sidestep as well off of the third knock-up there. Things are slowing down a little bit. 700 gold is the lead for Reign of Kings. Neutralized a bit by that gold going back in favor of Xflow as they won out that dragon fight with a blue buff steal. But they do have a Hextech dragon, which is quite powerful.
Yeah, and honestly, for Xflow here, you want the game to slow down. You want to scale up. You want to hit these item breakpoints, and then you can really start using your champions to a success, right? If you're Reign of Kings, you want this game to continue to be up tempo. You want to make plays on the map. You want to use your very powerful champions that you've drafted for themselves. That way you can build a big enough gold lead to where, obviously they're going to want to group up for fights, but even if they group up, you can still win them with the raw gold advantage that you should be looking to build up for these champions. But so far, it's once again only a 1,000 gold lead here at the 10-minute marker. So definitely, you know, they're looking to make plays, but obviously some have backfired against them. So have to wait and see, like, you know, what the next big play is going to be. Dragon is spawning in about a minute's time. That's probably what is going to be, you know, Reign of Kings' next little major objective here, because you can start putting the scaling team on a timer when you start taking these dragons this early into the game.
Yeah. Renji and Hestega already moving in the... They're a very powerful skirmish duo, Lee Sin, Renekton. If they can probably take any 2v2 at this point between the two of them and win it, even the Diana Yasuo is potentially a lost 2v2 between Lee Sin, Renekton at this point in the game, at least. So they're looking to secure the area around the dragon, spawning in about 18 seconds here.
Yeah, and you know, only sorry, 2 mythics have been purchased here on the side of of the Reign of Kings here, with the Lee Sin and the Lilia having access to it. So I'm curious to see, like, with no mythics currently in purchase, I'm curious to, like, what the option is going to be here. Like, are you just
Thrice Cross might be the target. Kick Flash into the stun coming out of Renji. Exhaust is used onto him immediately. He will get a shield coming out from the center, and a 2-man backup from it. It's the last breath combo. Renji going very low. Will die to the call of the Forge God as well. Yaone was here first, and Slappy nowhere to be found. There he comes now, but they lost out on this one already. 1 for 2 in favor of Xflow Pink.
Yep, and there it is, the AoE damage coming through from all of these champions. The Senna ulti over the top, but they're still gonna look for the dragon fight. Jungler is dead, though. He is now respawning back down, but Diana
Slappy
is
going
here.
very low. He does get knockup, steering charge into the auto attack. It's secured by Polish Pharaoh, and they've already lost Slappy without having used that sleep. Teleport coming in from Yaone into the top lane. Nice rotation from Yaone means that they win that one out. I mean, they might have won it out without him, but his presence there definitely is a win for Xflow Pink.
Yep, Sega did the Sonic Wave. Leroy is able to use the Hack Splash over the wall, so I think there was a couple question mark pings on him, so they probably saw him trying to make that type of play. But yeah, honestly, the initial Dragon fight, we saw the Kick Flash coming through from Hustega, but Blade of the Ruin King was not quite purchased there by Renji in that fight, so he did not have the 3 empowered auto attacks from his W there to really start doing a lot of damage to this Yasuo. So unfortunately for him, also the exhaust as well went onto Renji, so he wasn't really quite able to do a lot of damage.
Oh, Hemi actually just getting chunked out by Renji. Whoa! Renji just borks him down with that Blade of the Ruin King. Triple auto, immediately gets the movement speed buff and just autos him to death with that on-hit damage. Right when Prey recalled. That's so unfortunate for Hammy there.
Yep, and Hostega's also looking at a Trice
Yeah,
Cross.
looking
He
for
has
Trice
kick
Cross
again.
He will just kick Sonic Wave. No Wind Wall available for him. He will Wind Wall away the Dredge line, however. The Death Charge going to be invested as Renji coming in from behind the tower just for a little bit of moral support and to tank the tower, of course.
Yeah, but still, like, you know, once again, like, their composition cannot slow down. The second that any one of these members are off by themselves and you can easily pick them off, you certainly need to do so. Because we saw what happens, like, even though they didn't have their mythics purchased yet, you saw what happens when they group up together and they land their AoE abilities together. If they're able to get 2-3 people into a fight and have all of that AoE layered on top of each other, they are almost guaranteed to win a lot of these fights to come through. So I definitely do like the last couple of plays here being done by Reign of Kings, but also for Xflow, like, you kind of have to know that, like, you know, this is what your competition wants to do. You don't want to give Reign of Kings any opportunity to use their champions that they built themselves to further getting themselves a lead, because the goal is so relatively even, but you want to make sure that you're still playing for these grouped up team fights.
Yeah, Renji feeling a little bit better after that one, but will they be able to take out Trice Cross in time? They need to they tried to do it in that team fight earlier. They tried to take him out before anything could happen, because if the Diana ultimate into Yasuo ultimate, that's just easy setup for all the rest of their ultimates, the Call of the Forge God, the Encore, the Dawning Shadow. They weren't able to do it, and as a result, the Diana does make it there just in time for Trice Cross. Trice Cross does get the ultimate. He dies afterwards, but his job is done. He's already held them there for a little bit extra bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a very easy composition that they've kind of drafted for themselves. And yeah, Reign of Kings, they've got a 1K gold lead there, and they were able to take down the first tower of the game in the bot side of the map. But it still needs to, they need to keep up the pace. They need to kind of continuously look for it. And Rich Herald is spawning up here in about, a 10 seconds time or so. So that would be another point of pressure to
Yeah,
continue to
Leroy
look for it.
potentially caught here. He's going to get jumped on by Polish Pharaoh. Depth Charge going to be thrown down onto Hammy just to disengage, and that'll be that. Polish Pharaoh going for the basically tanked Bruiser Diana build where with the Sunfire Kate. Will probably be going Sunfire into the Demonic Embrace if I had to guess.
Yeah, probably. That's typically like, maybe not Demonic Embrace, maybe like if he wanted to do something like a Zanya's third, maybe for the Diana, I would say, because it'd be like you kind of go in, very similar to Yasuo, if you go in and you use your ultimate and like that's basically all your job, like you're trying to do like all your bursts at one time and then survive the rest of the fight, right?
Yeah.
So that might be the third option choice here. I'm curious. Like he might feel like he needs a little bit more damage, so where the Demonic Embrace potentially would come in. Also provides a little bit more tanky stats, but I do think that Zanya's would be a very nice item for him to have, just so he can really throw himself in there, like basically like not necessarily suiciding, but basically like knowing that he can go in and have that very easy stasis to come through. But it does look like they were able to push out their waves to get a reset off here, and a couple more mythics being purchased here by both teams. It does look like Yasuo, he's got a bit of a garbage sale going on here. Can't really make up his mind what he wants to actually purchase because he bought that chain vest to come through. So he is a little bit delayed on his mythic, but once again, dragon spawning in 15 seconds. This is where Xflow's composition wants to be grouped up, and they're all already here. Slappy last time was a little bit late getting here. So we'll see if it ends up having the same way.
Yeah,
Leroy going
gonna
in.
come in. They actually opt for this one. Slappy's not here yet. Leroy goes in, and Polish Pharaoh takes him out. The flash away from Wit will avoid him getting caught up in the last breath as well, but now Renji's caught. Call the Forge God used by Yone. They're gonna knock him out. Renji's just gonna get taken down in spite of everything, and the dragon is firmly in control of Xflow.
Yeah, not sure what Leroy is thinking there. He knew his entire team was not quite there in the vicinity, but he chooses to Q forward anyways, throws that hook in very aggressively, ends up biting the dust there, and not only does it bite the dust, but it also gives the second dragon of the game over to Xflow here on the blue side, just allowing them to scale up even longer. And now all of a sudden it's like for Reign of Kings, like the Xflow composition is no longer on a timer with these two dragons being picked up here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they tried to go for a mid tower as a consolation prize as a result of that bit of a misplay on the side of Reign of Kings, but they don't even get that. Yaone alone is able to push them off long enough for his team to finish the dragon off and come back in. All of a sudden, Reign of Kings, they had a little bit of momentum in this game, but now they're down 400 gold to Xflow Pink.
Yep, and it's not gonna get any easier from here, right? Because we talked about how the Renekton, he's not a great team fighting champion. Lee Sin has not really got anything done since about maybe the 10-minute mark or so in this game, and also these champions are obviously going to be worse and worse as the game goes on compared to its counterparts as the game goes on, Diana, the Yasuo, even with especially with the Seraphine Senna as the back pocket, right? And this Orin is also going to become, he's already 2 items. He's a very tanky champion, especially with the ornaments to come through to give to his teammates as well. So, if you are Reign of Kings, obviously, you still want to make plays. You still want things to happen on the map because you can't just let this game ultimately scale out because the team fighting potential is just much better here for Xflow.
Yeah, the shield bow just now finished up for Trice means that he is that much more difficult to take out, and he really is the person you've got to take out before anything else can happen, because, again, he's the one who just pulls it all together. The Diana ultimate into Yasuo ultimate allows everything else to land, and it's, I don't know, it's not looking good for Reign of Kings going into the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, but it's obviously going to be up to them to once again like continuously look to make plays, continuously kind of catch members out. But you know, one thing that Xflow has done really well in this series. Hold on, 1 second. Polish
Yeah,
looking
Polish
for a
Pharaoh
play.
potentially looking for the catch onto Renji, but he's able to dodge away from the steering charge, and now maybe it's a Reign of Kings looking for the pick. Stretch line not quite going to connect. They lost vision there, as Yaone now trying to retreat back towards this tower will get stunned up. Nice buffer on the steering charge, but they don't have any more CC for him. 4 members of Reign of Kings pulled up to this top side, not really getting much out of it, but they do try and push out Yaone, maybe get some vision on the Baron area, but now Polish Pharaoh looking to go in, has already used the dash, and they'll have to back away here. Slappy was making his way up the river, but he's still quite a ways away.
Yeah, I think if Xflow has a little bit more vision there, I think, you know, I would not be surprised if Polish just sent that one in there and used his ultimate to come through, because a lot of abilities could have came down on those 2 members. And if you kill those 2 guys, then ultimately, you know, Baron would be an option here because you are past the 20-minute marker, and that certainly would have ballooned this Goldie. But like, you know, the comment that I was making before is that one thing that Xflow has done really solid in this series, the fact that, you know, once they do end up getting a kind of like a lead, or they stall out with this composition, they stop making a lot of really random plays. They make sure that they know what they're playing for. They know that the dragons that are on the map is what's going to allow them to group up together. And really, it's like, it's not like the composition here of Reign of Kings allows them to just split push and just constantly make plays on the side lane. Yes, you probably, you know, Renekton is going to potentially win out on this Ornn in a side lane, but still, it's like, you know, you're basically giving up the free dragon down in the bumps of the map because he does not have TP. So, you know, Reign of Kings, they're going to have to start making some very difficult choices as this game goes on. They're going to have to start making some plays very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I do think that the Renekton should beat the Ornn in a side lane, if it weren't for the fact that Ornn is catapulted ahead in terms of gold. He's 2.5 items compared to only 1.5 on Renji. Surely Renji will be able to pick up the finished Sunfire off of this recall with the gold he's got stored up. No, not even, actually. Just the extra Aegis.
Yep, and you know, once again, 30 seconds away from Dragon. Both teams grouping up for this objective. And we've seen fight after fight, as long as multiple AoE goes down onto 2 or 3 or more members of Reign of Kings, it's definitely going to look a bit rough in these coming team fights, because it's so easy just to layer it all together. So I'm curious to see, like, you know, what is Reign of Kings going to do different this time around to allow them to be successful in this team fight?
Well, part of it would definitely be... Sorry, not to interrupt, but Slappy needs to be in this team fight. Yaone has consistently been in team fights before Slappy. Like, they're at the start of team fights, and Slappy is always kind of, like, running up to watch his team die. Yaone's probably going to issue the call of the Forge God here fairly soon once he realizes how split Reign of Kings are. They do see Slappy trying to flank on the backside. He does have Flash and Sleep potentially, but he doesn't have a stopwatch to make sure that he doesn't die while waiting for that one to come in. They will get in on the Scuttle Crabs. Leroy taking a ton of damage here. The smite coming down from Polish Pharaoh to secure that crab, which means he doesn't quite have smite yet. Will look for it onto the dragon here, as Hammy is going to be the target from Slappy here. Getting dodged out. Black charge right side into the kick, and Slappy goes in trying to sleep them all up, but they're just getting annihilated by the wombo combo coming out of Xflow. Slappy trying to finish off Hammy, will not be able to do so. Renji just letting the dominance go in the back line, but Wit just getting soloed out by Polish Pharaoh on the backside. Renji, the only remaining member available from Reign of Kings, and he will take out one more, but he surely cannot take out Yaone and Polish Pharaoh. He just doesn't have the sustain. Will slice over the wall just to get followed. It's an ace for Xflow Pink.
Yep, it's honestly, it looked pretty good there initially, because we saw the kick, we saw the flash forward there from Slappy to try to land a multi-man sleep, but I think he only landed a 2 or 3 man, but that was after all of the damage had came through from the Diana, from the Yasuo. It was basically all of the AoE in combination, so it was just a little bit too slow. I like the idea of wanting to try to go first, but even as the Drowsy is being ticked over from the Lilia, you still have a couple of seconds to really go forward and make a very solid attempt at a lot of damage there, and that's basically what ended up happening in that fight. Yeah, Wit was trying to duel out this Diana, but this Diana is 2.5 items. She is just going to 1v1 you as the AD carry in this matchup. That's how strong Diana is, the current state of the game. So definitely very solid there And that's now once again Dragon Soul point. And look, the composition here for Reign of Kings is already struggling with damage, and it's once again a Mountain Soul option. If they pick the third one up, that's going to be 27% armor and magic resistance additional for your team.
That's really rough. Not to mention the shield, of course, from the soul going their way, and this is just it's so tough here. Now Trice looking to go forward here. Teleport coming in from Yaone as potentially call the Forge God ready to be coming down. Here it is. He's gonna slow up Wit and Hastega on their way out. Not gonna follow up on anything. Polish Pharaoh goes in on the Slappy, uses the ultimate. Slappy gonna put him to sleep and run out of there. The stopwatch gonna be used. And he'll back away here as the Leroy is getting chased out by Trice. Polish Pharaoh doesn't have an ultimate available. This is maybe the opportunity they need, but they've already used Slappy's ultimate as well.
Sorry,
not to mention Renji bot.
Yeah, Renekton is on the bottom half of the map, exactly. They could, if they wanted to, potentially look for a top half of the map of the play, but instead, they're going to answer the mid lane push so they don't just get a free tier 2, but Renji, they're just going to most likely get a bot tier 2 for free instead. So ultimately, the play, does end up being in favor here of Reign of Kings. And yeah, if you look at the gold graph, the gold graph is still very, very even. The big issue is looking at the struggles that they're having in some of these team fights to come through. So actually, they do end up not picking up that bot tier 2, unfortunately for them, as a couple of the back timers that end up coming back. So, but still, it's 1-for-1 in the tower departments here for both teams, and really, ultimately, the longer that Renji is down here on the bottom half of the map, he is TP-less. Like, he chose to go Ignite for the mid lane pressure. So, as long as Yaone, obviously Yaone is also TP-less, but he can still, when his TP does end up coming back off of the cooldown, he can actually be to the play way faster than Renji can if he is choosing to be, if he is the one to be bot lane during the play.
Yeah, Yaone also has picked up a ton of armor. The only MR he's picked up was the Mercury Shreds, and I think that's mostly for the tenacity more than anything. So the only one who has a chance of doing damage to him is Slappy, and Slappy has been struggling to be in a position to put down damage he needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a couple of attempts here of recent time, from Slappy. Like, we saw the flash forward, right? We saw the initial little play, but unfortunately, it has not really been enough because they just haven't really been able to layer, and they haven't these team fights are gonna be very, very explosive here from Xflow, and really it's a lot of the ultimate from Lilia is sometimes it can just be a little bit too slow in a lot of cases. So, but they do end up picking up a free top tower there, basically just to the minions. But Ornn is now level 15. Ornaments are starting to come through here. Seraphine has Leandre's upgraded. Senna has her Eclipse upgraded as well. So definitely looking in a much better position. And once again, another slight pause here. I believe, support had a mouse issue. So we are going to be getting right back into the game here very, very shortly. But once again, Mountain Dragon is the name of the game here. 1 minute and 20 seconds away here from spawning up. What can Reign of Kings do to actually stop them from really getting this thing? Because we've seen fight after fight. Even the last one looked initially very, very good for Reign of Kings, but it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Slappy doesn't have a stopwatch or a Zanya, so he can't go for the flash sleep. This is maybe a play. They're gonna try and catch Yaone out here, but I don't think between these two members of Reign of Kings they have the damage necessary to kill him. Exhaust gonna be used onto Renji. He's got the unsealed spellbook. Yaone flashing away and will survive from that one. So that was a nice attempt. But they used the kick and didn't really get too much. Yaone flashing away is not as big of a deal as someone else's splash in a team fight.
Yeah, but it does mean that, the ultimate cooldown for Lee Sin will be back up by the time this dragon does spawn.
This is a pancake. They're going to root up Leroy. Leroy just going to go down immediately as Trice rips him apart.
Yeah, that's definitely very, very bad for them because he is now going to be dead when the dragon does spawn. It's now uncontestable here for Reign of Kings. They're going to try to do a bit of a desperation play here. They're going to TP into the Baron. But now Xflow is saying, hey, we don't have to do the drag. We can just come to the Baron and we can fight you 5 versus 4.
Yeah, Renji trying to get something sneaky here, but there's a ward in every brush available for Xflow. Hastega has to get ready for the turn here as Trice is charging up his knockup. Here's going to be a little bit of damage onto Troy's Cross. He'll use the knockup onto this Rift Scuttler. Now they're looking for it. Slappy ready to go in, looking for
what?
And with the 4-man fleet! Here, gonna use all their abilities to come out, but Hammy goes down. Tries to get the 1-man knockup, but it's only on the side. Slay is trying to do it, but Polish Pharaoh in the backside just shuts him down with a big ultimate. Hezdiga kicks him out, and it's a 1-for-1 so far. Renji for Hammy. Slappy is here, and the Leroy has respawned and rejoined the fight. Cross very low, but is gonna get healed up by the Seraphine, and they're gonna set their sights on this Mountain Soul.
Yeah, but this is the issue that you come across when you're playing against the Seraphine. Yes, fight is very close, but look at the HP bars. They're coming back up.
Gonna come in onto Trice Cross, nice wind wall onto the Sonic Wave, and do they have the damage? Leroy is just isolated the wind wall, stopping all the damage coming out from Wit and Hastega. Yaone is just a big meatball that they cannot get through. Wit is just doing what he can, autoing him for a year, and he just doesn't do it. Wit is out of there, and here goes
Trice Cross.
He gets in there, shuts down Trice Cross. Yaone going very low, finally, but the Mountain Soul is picked up by Polish Pharaoh and Xflow Pink. Slappy shuts down Orange. Polish Pharaoh trying to finish him off, but he has no ultimate available. Hastega looking for a Sonic Wave. It's not going to connect. Slappy get ready to continue the chase, but here comes Prey and Hammy, and now he's gone too far. Ready to go in there, doesn't quite get slowed up by Hammy, and he's on the run, throwing out those damage, and the Sonic Wave not going to connect, and they're going to back away, but the Mountain Soul picked up by Xflow Pink.
Exactly. Very crucially there, the Mountain Soul does go the way of Xflow there. And honestly, I do like the decision there. Reign of Kings, they say, hey, come towards the Baron. And honestly, Xflow said, yeah, okay, I can hit you up. But Slappy, a huge 4-man lilting lullaby there to actually set up for the best potential possible scenario. But it was still just a 1-for-1 because they couldn't get through all of the Seraphine and the overall resistances that they had from the previous Mountain Dragons. But still, they're back on the map once again here for this game. Blue Buff is the current contention here to take away. But yeah, they're looking for a play. They know they're stronger.
Gonna be used, and there's a knockup in the back line. Down Trice Cross gets in onto Slappy, not a ton of damage, but the Encore comes out, spell shielded by Wit, and they're trying to do what damage they can. Renji going very low. Finally, Will Ball double kill over to Diana. Hastega now in the back side. He's gonna go in, gets it onto Trice Cross, but the Immortal Shield, shield comes out, and a lot of damage coming out from Slappy. Trice Cross burns down. They get the knockup, not quite from Yaone. Hastega and Wit on the other side. They're gonna try and chase in there. Slappy ready to go in. He's got a lot of movement speed, and now they're backing away. Trice Cross is down in exchange for Renji and Leroy, and now the Baron potentially gonna be controlled by Reign of Kings. Sonic Wave not quite gonna connect onto Hammy, as Wit is on the side and can't really do damage from there.
Yeah, he can't really do damage, but it's also like, these fights back and forth, Slappy has started to become a real menace in these fights because once they use all of their CC, it's like, how do you actually keep Lilia in place in this composition without any lockdown? She has so much built-in movement speed, not only from the items that she's building, but also from the passive as well. And really, these fights going back and forth, and we see, the CC layering there was a little bit off from Xflow there in that fight, so it kind of resulted in a little bit of a closer fight than expected here. And still, gold lead relatively even, but still in a huge advantage here for Xflow because of all the ornaments and the 4 dragon stacking that they've already achieved for themselves in this game.
Yeah, and you were talking about it. It did go quite a bit better for Reign of Kings than it had any right to, but it's still a 1 fight for Xflow, and they're starting up the Baron. Now, Slappy has a little bit more damage to work with and is a lot tankier, can go a lot more aggressively in for some sleeps. Trice Cross gonna throw out on the exhaust. Nice dodge away from Slappy on the knockup, but he's still gonna get chased down. Is trying to run away. Nice dodge again, and he successfully pulled them off the Baron, but he's gonna get autoed. Can't dodge auto attacks from Hammy. Slappy is just gonna get autoed to death. Sammy going very thin, but he cannot quite get him. And Slappy will be able to make it out of there, but Hastega face checks right into Polish Pharaoh, is potentially in trouble here. Renji gonna give him a safeguard at the safety, and now they're just trying to chase down what remaining members of Reign of Kings they can find. Nobody's gone down yet.
Yep, no one's going down here.
Wave gonna connect onto Hammy, but he's gonna get a little bit of healing coming out from the Seraphine. Missed the knockup from Trice Cross. The wind wall's already used. The Dreadlight connect! They're gonna go in. Reggie stuns him up. There's a big shield, and the Encore catches 3 into a 2-man last breath into the knockup. There's a lot of damage coming out. Slappy trying to kite it out, but he doesn't have the sleep available. Leroy and Wit doing what damage they can. Yaone is just a big scary Fairy Meatball Wit about to get soloed out. He's trying to cut it down. Can he do it? No, it just gets auto down by Polish Pharaoh. Who goes golden? Yaone very happy to tank it up for his team. 5 searing charge into 2. That's going to be Hastinga going down as well. Slappy trying to cut it down. Double kill over for the Orin, and Slappy's just going to get slowed down. He's running for his life. He will slowly but surely burn down. Shutdown goes over. It's an ace for Xflow Pink.
20-second death timer series too. This is most likely going to be the Baron picked up as well. And honestly, once again, fight back and forth, very much crazy. But we saw Prey and Hammy get initially pushed out from the fight. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, Diana is like for sure dead, right? And he just never ended up dying. The Mountain Soul plus all the extra built-in resistances plus the Sonya stasis to come through equals up a victory here in this game. Polish Pharaoh dominating in this one, 10-1-9 on the Diana, and the Elder Dragon is the next big point of contention here. 1 minute away, and with the Baron buff as an active here for Xflow, it's almost looking like a nail in the coffin here for the series.
Yeah, with Baron and Mountain Soul, it's very unlikely they lose a fight around the Elder Dragon, but there's still potential. Reign of Kings get that Elder, they all of a sudden win out a team fight just because of how much damage that burn and the execute will do. It makes it so much more bearable to play against the shield coming out from Seraphine and Senna, but they have to get that steal, and they have to not have already lost the fight by the time the steal comes in.
Yeah, but it's a matter of actually working your way into the fight, right? Because you're not going to be able to walk through the wave because you have to deal with the Baron buffed up minions. You can't actually walk up to contest it like this.
Yeah, Hammy's auto attack range is just like about the same as that cannon minion.
Yeah, he has 128 souls.
Oh my goodness. Alright, the tower goes down. It looks like just gonna be the 5-man death ball coming out from Xflow Pink, which is out of tower range. And he's so very low. He's gonna have to go back to the base. Slappy just trying to do what he can, but he's gonna get slowed up by the auto attacks. Has to back away here. They have to give this inhibitor up. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yep, the inhib does go down. Elder Dragon has now officially spawned on the map. Now, ROK, you have to find a way down here with also not killing yourself in the process, because like basically any bush you check in, you see a couple blue wards coming through. They have Nautilus checking it first, so it's like, you know, you have to be very, very careful.
Yaone here, gotta call in the Forge God, looking for Leroy, and Hastinga as a 2-man last breath. Leroy goes down. There's the exhaust on the Reggie, slicing and dicing back towards the tower. The searing charge comes out. Hastinga trying to kick someone out, but he doesn't get it. And there's the encore. Wit is trying to do what damage he can, but the wind wall and Trice Cross just zoning him out. He's gonna take it down. Slappy going very, very, very low. He's running for his life. Polish Pharaoh and the long range autos from Hammy just take him out. Wit gonna go down as well. Hastinga gonna get killed off by the searing charge. That's the ace 4-0 in favor of Xflow Pink, and it's gonna be the 3-1 series in their favor.
Yeah, it took a little longer than expected because of all of the crazy fights back and forth, but Xflow finally able to pick up this series. You know, they're gonna do it even without the minions to take down the Nexus towers. They're gonna slowly picking up the rear, but unfortunately for them, it is going to be a GG, well played series over here. Xflow taking the series 3-1.
Yeah, triple mountain. Yaone happy to tank up literally everything that Reign of Kings could possibly throw at him. That'll be the series for Xflow Pink, and Reign of Kings are eliminated from the Classic Championship Series.
Yeah, and honestly, like, you know, for Xflow here, really well played out series, honestly. Like, you know, they had a very solid plan. They knew that all they had to do was really win a couple of games where they didn't necessarily have that side selection to come through for them. And even though they lost game 3, they knew they could go back to blue on game 4, and they said, okay, like, you're going to have to leave up one of those champions that you didn't necessarily feel confident about leaving up. And fortunately for them, it was that Seraphine option. They went right back to the death ball type of composition and ended up securing the victory for them in game number 4.
Yeah, that was really impressive. We're gonna look for an interview from one of the members of Xflow Pink. So we're gonna go up to a standby screen. We'll come back to you with an interview shortly. Don't go anywhere, and we'll finish up the stream after that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Oh.
Nice. So,
My mic is hot, so we're gonna have to hold up for a second. Internet, hello and welcome back. We're here with Polish Pharaoh jungler for Xflow Pink, just coming off of a 3-1 victory over Reign of Kings. How do you feel about that one?
I mean, I feel pretty good. So I know I did the podcast before this, so I was hyping us up a little bit, saying we're going to 3-0. We did drop the loss for game three. It was a little unfortunate, but throw a little content for the viewers. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I got in my own head that game. I said in the podcast I was worried about their jungler, and that jungler definitely just ran circles around the game three, so that threw me off a little bit. But we came back strong for game four. I think if you ask any of my teammates, I came back and I was a lot more active, a lot more talkative. It was definitely one of those games where like you lose, but it lights you a fire underneath you for the second game or for the fourth game, I guess. And we just kind of picked it up and went really well from there.
Nice, nice. And uh this were you like did that loss in game 3 did that affect you mentally not you specifically but like your team or you mentally at all, or were you just like it's fine, we lost one, we're still going to win this series?
I think in the heat of the moment, it threw us off for sure. I think going off two strong wins into what essentially was them bleeding us dry, it definitely threw us off during the middle of the game, and we didn't react well enough. But we ended the game. We kind of just took those couple minutes we had to like get some air, get some water, cool off, and we came back ready for game four.
All right. And you and Reign of Kings came from the same group in the regular season. In the regular season, you lost to Reign of Kings 0-2. Uh, but you're able to come back in this series without giving too much away. How is there anything you can tell us about how you adjusted, or do you think you just played better today rather than the day you played against Reign of Kings?
So funny enough, I think we're actually like 0-6 versus Reign of Kings because we've had at least two scrims that they beat us in. Um, so we did have a couple losses under our belt against them already. But I think if you go back to our games from Reign of Kings in the preseason, it was 0-2 loss for us. And I think if you look at those games, I think we were playing strong early, but we kind of started making mistakes that we shouldn't be making. Like, we started getting a little ahead of ourselves, a little cocky, a little ego play here and there, and that really just threw our lead really fast. So coming back into these games, it was just changing that mentality, being like, okay, we got to know how to slow things down, know what we're doing, look for these picks, calculate the risks of it better, stuff like that. And I think that really paid off well for us.
Yeah, Orion, you have anything for him?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, you guys seem to have a pretty solid game plan going into at least game one of the draft. Like, Seraphine obviously was a big priority for you guys, and it allowed you guys to draft a bit of a meat bowl, kind of like just group up together, 5v5, like kind of fight it out. And then obviously, going into game three, since they were on the red side, they were able to ban that away. But even though you guys lost that game three, it seemed like they had four bans. They had to they were very persistent on and banning out throughout the series. They had the Yumi, Zillion, Seraphine, and Wukong. And did you expect Game Four for the Seraphine to be the one left open for that combination, or did you feel like you guys would be fine getting any of those four options as a B1 pick?
So it at the once we got to that third round ban, I think we were confident Yumi and Zillion were the first two bans, and we are definitely kind of rolling the dice between the Wukong and the Seraphine, but we were ready for the game plan either way there. I think I think we were more expecting that Wukong ban simply because we had it in those earlier games more.
Mhm.
So they were more. I think they were more likely to be more afraid of seeing that repeat versus the Seraphine that one game, um, which you could play around a Seraphine lane a little more, I think, than you can around a Wukong.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so with this victory, you have eliminated Reign of Kings from the CCS. That's your second win in playoffs coming from the losers bracket. Um, the match between DOG Gamma and Goldfish Gaming will be happening later this week on Thursday. You are slated to play the loser of that match. Do you have any thoughts on either of those two teams?
So we've played against Gamma before. We haven't seen much of Goldfish personally, just because they're a separate pool. There's just mostly the memes about Matt G and his quote unquote mac and cheese. Um, but besides that, I think personally I'm more worried about fighting Gamma just because we already played against them, and games did not go well, to put it softly, I guess. I think realistically, it'd be really nice if you could play them again, get that 2-0 the 3-0 turnaround or 3-1 turnaround, kind of like what we did with Reign of Kings today. I think it's a really nice story. I think in terms of team strategy, it might be nicer to fight Goldfish just because we don't have that same repertoire with them. So it's a little fresher of a game set to go into. So
I
I can see
see.
arguments for both games.
Do you have a prediction as to who will win that series?
Right now, I would say Gamma's gonna win if I had to
Okay.
make a guess.
Interesting. Expect some ats from Goldfish Gaming in the Discord later on. Orion, you have anything else for him?
No, honestly, I was gonna ask like about the prediction. I guess in terms of like you guys making a bit of the lower bracket run. Like, do you feel like there's a team like on your path that could potentially like be like the ones that could potentially end that run, or like you could also go the route of like who do you think is going to end up being the two teams in the grand finals here for CCS?
Mm, So I'm not sure about the two teams final. I mean, obviously I'm gonna say Xflow Pink, right? Is gonna be
Okay,
one of
okay.
them. Honestly think we've had a bit of a. We started off, I know, against TA Sentinels, we got 0-2. That went pretty rough. But I think we had a nice little spree of winning games till we got dethroned by Dog Gamma first, I believe. Um, and it kind of just made us try harder, think more about things more clearly. So I do think we are a team that has potential to move on forward if we continue the same mindset that we've been having, the same practices that we've been having. In terms of a second pick for finals, I feel like it's just been a lot of dog hype. And there's multiple dog teams left, so I feel like they have, at least statistically, the better odds of seeing a dog team in the finals.
All
There you
right.
go.
All right. Well, that's gonna be it for us. Congratulations on your victory, and good luck to you in the rest of your lower bracket run to the finals. I'll be excited to see it happen.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care,
Yep.
guys.
Congrats. All right, that's it for us. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in. I think we have matches going on both tomorrow and Thursday.
Yep.
So if I'm wrong, I know we have them Thursday. I'm not sure about tomorrow, to be honest with you. But in any case, tune in to twitch.tv/CCS_LOL and of course twitch.tv/CCS2 LOL for those matches. That's going to be it for us. I've been Agent A2. This has been Orion. Thanks for watching, everyone. Shout out to Orbital, of course, producing a pseudo last minute for us here. It's been a blast. Thanks for watching, everyone.